T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Woo, man, what is good, everybody? You are now tapped in again to the coolest reptile podcast in the world. I'm your boy, MJ. Welcome to the Trap Talk Reptile Podcast, episode 345, elite ball python talk with some legendary ball python breeders. Probably some of the funniest people in the ball python game for sure, man. But what is good, man? Hope everyone's doing great out there. My nerves are still through the roof, man. We just had an amazing raffle, probably the biggest raffle in reptile keeping history. We just raffled off a pair of Bolins, $20,000 pair of snakes in a raffle, and the lucky winner, Andy Middleton. Shout out to Andy Middleton. And then, House of Blues, Omi Garrett got second place. And then I got third place. I got $500, but fuck it. I dropped a lot more than that in the raffle. Either way, man, thank you so much for everyone who participated. But hey, what is good? If this is your first time tapping into your boy a favor, smash that like button because I'm going to ask you again during the episode. And then hit that subscribe button, notification bell. That way you're on top of every single piece of podcasts I drop here on this channel, all about the love, keeping, breeding of reptiles. So if that's what you're into as well, then man, this is going to be the channel to be a part of. Shout out to all my trappers out there. Shout out to all the viewers. I see you guys. If you're looking for exclusive content, if you want to support what I do, and if you want to tap in more behind the scenes of what I have going on for this podcast, go down to the very first link in the description below. Join the Trap Talk Patreon family. As soon as you join the Patreon family, you will get a link to the Discord, which will tap you in with over 165 trappers. Shit is popping nonstop in the Discord. Appreciate all the love and support. Trappers, you guys know what you guys mean to me. See the tap all day, every day. Make sure you give me a follow on Instagram as well, Trap Talk God 619, and follow the podcast's Instagram page as well, the Trap Talk Reptile Podcast. I'm also on Facebook. What's good? Show me some love on Facebook. Go give me a follow and go like my shit on Facebook, man. Appreciate all the love and support. Looking forward to tonight's sponsors because they're super heavy as always. But tonight's episode is brought to you by my boy Miguel Garcia, always evolving pythons. Go give him a follow on Instagram. Go give him a follow on Morph Market. Check out his YouTube. Been doing big things and putting on a whole country, literally. Shout out to my boy Miguel. Shout out to the entire AEP family. Thank you for your love and support for many years. Literally since I got into the game, Miguel's taking care of me. And seriously, man, I'm very grateful for it. So thank you so much, Miguel. I will say also this episode is brought to you by the king of the Mandarin game, man. TOFAUTI, Royals of Africa, my boy TJ. Make sure you go give him a follow, especially if you're into Mandarin, okay? This guy has a real Mandarin floating around in his projects, established, doing next level things by it. I'm literally in love with this project. So best thing you can do if you're in love with it too is go give my boy TJ a follow right now on Instagram. Do not sleep on my boy TJ. He's a force to be reckoned with in the hobby, and that's a fact. Especially if you already had the pleasure of running into him and talking to him, you know exactly what I mean. I also want to say that tonight's episode is brought to you by Mark Bailey over at Mark Bailey Reptiles. OG, triple. I appreciate you so much, Mark. Cannot wait to hang out with Mark. Bill Stiegel, just to name a couple OGs who are going to be tapping into the Reptile Super Show happening July next month. We're already in June. Jesus, we're already halfway through the year. That is crazy. But that means it's Reptile Super Show season. All right, who's ready for Anaheim? Who's ready for Pomona? Speaking of Anaheim, Pomona, we all need in the comments to get on Bob Vu's bumper about coming to a Reptile Super Show. Bob's down to visit, but we need to get him officially visited, and we need to get him to somehow convince him to come vend. We need Bob Vu at the Super Shows for sure. That would be too hard. So, guys, when Bob hops in, get on his bumper about him coming to the Reptile Super Show. But, guys, be ready. Reptile Super Show. Coolest reptile show in the country. Cannot wait for that. It's going to be amazing. Shout out to all the early birds. I know this is going to be something cracking tonight. So many people excited to hear from Antoine and Bob. Tonight's all about selling strategies, man. So many people bitching about can't sell a snake. I can't do this, or morph market this, morph market that. Man, Bob, from what I've seen, Bob's never had a problem selling a snake. Antoine's never had a problem buying a snake. So there you go. You have the two great opposites right there. Because we all know Antoine he holds everything back. He hardly sells anything because he's shit that he hits. He has to hold everything back. Anyway, it's going to be a great topic of conversation wrapping around ball pythons, the sales business side of ball pythons, everything that you guys need to hear, especially if you don't have any sales experience at all. And that's fine. Not a lot of people do, but man, you got to be bred for this shit. It's going to give you longevity, man. Early birds, what's good? Wages, reptiles in the building. Thank you so much for being here. Kaju constrictors in the building. What's good? Thanks for being here. Got the homie Elite Exotics, BP John, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. The homie Levi in the building, FTL Reptiles, Sexing and Flexing podcast hitter, Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. Jacob Letter Better Fetter, the professor of the Trap Talk Patreon family. Please go give my guy a follow right now. Super heavy hitter in the game. HB Reptiles, Herbert in the building. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Appreciate you. Piyush Patel, my dog. Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Thanks for tapping in. The Misty Rainforest. What is good, the Misty Rainforest? Appreciate you being a supporter and being here. Much love and support. Big Mike, 1776 Exotics, the OG, my very first Trap Talk Patreon member for over 3 years now. This guy right here, fucking, I owe you everything, man. You're my dog, bro. Seriously. I'll see you at the top, 100%. Justin Campbell in the building. What's good? Nixon Reptiles. What's up, player? Thanks for tapping in. I haven't seen you in a while, dog. Thanks for being here. Grow some balls on me. Patrick Rose in the building. What's up, Patrick? KMB Reptiles in the building. What is good? Reptifari in the building. By the way, KMB, Trap Talk Patreon member. Don't even sleep on my homies at KMB. Trap Talk Patreon members all day, every day. Reptifari in the building. What's up, Reptifari? Trap Talk Patreon member all day, every day. Slithery Serpents. What is good? New Era Reptiles. I like that name. I even like that logo. I fucks with that. New Era. That name goes a lot harder than your typical name that comes into this hobby, I will say. Well thought out, well played. Thank you so much for tapping in. Honestly, guys, I'm too excited for this episode. My heart's going through my chest. If you think that tonight's episode is worthy enough of some super chats, all right, if you want to support tonight's episode by dropping a super chat like this guy right here, Geeky Gecko Creations, who's been on the podcast, feel like you need to come back on, talk more about it. But guys, drop some love in the super chats if you're ready to hear this episode, because it's Bob's balls. Antoine Hood. Understand, whenever these two go to a show together, they close it down. And I'm not talking about the show. I'm talking about the buffets at the strip joints. Oh, you know what I'm talking about, man. It's going down. Episode 345, Elite Ball Python with some of the most elite players in the game. And that's a fact. Dave Levison's here too. Let's go. Gee.
Good.
You ready for do more in the future? Trap Talk podcasts?
Yes.
Man.
Only Trap Talk. Exclusive.
Yes,
Exclusive. Oh.
So stop calling us.
Rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the crop, gotta love it or not. I'm hot from the hop to the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with the rub the spot, get the club to pop. When I come up with everybody, we do it. Everybody, we do it. Do it. Do it.
And we're live. What is good? Episode 345. I'm your boy MJ. We have Dave Levison driving, Bob Vu in the flesh, and Antoine Hood. Wow, look at this screen. This is crazy.
You.
Bob, you look so tan.
Yeah. Antoine looks tan.
Well, Anton lives in Texas, but he gets a lot of sun down there.
You don't live in. Wait, he just said you live in Texas, Antoine.
You not in Texas, bud? Or are you in Arizona?
I'm in California, crazy.
Ah, fuck! I thought you moved, man. You guys have sun in California? I haven't really.
Hey, you know, Dave doesn't know what Pacific Standard Time is, right? And that's a real. I mean, it's okay, but there's people out there who don't know what PST means.
Well, I know what PST means. I just don't know when it is.
The actual time it means, regardless. Hey,
He
listen.
he thought it meant. Psst.
Yeah. Not
Hey,
wrong.
Hey! Before we start ending this shit, right? Yo, check this out. I want everybody in the comment section to close your eyes real quick and imagine this scenario, right? Close your eyes real quick, right? It's October. It's Tinley. It's Friday night at Tinley. Everybody got there early, right? We did the charity grappling match. We raised $200K for Brian Barczyk and US Arc.
Oh my God, it's a lot.
We go to Polecats in Chicago, right, to celebrate at the strip club. And then all of a sudden the music dropped and it's the theme to the motherfucking Trap Talk podcast at the fucking strip club. And we are fucking getting it in the crowd going crazy because we throwing money all over the place and acting the damn fool. Yo, we got to get that MP3, son, to give to the DJ. We get to
Hey man, Polecats is too strict. That place is way too strict for doing that.
Hey, well, okay, listen, you know what the title was supposed to be tonight's episode, but YouTube just hella denied it. It's fine, man. But I mean, is that a legendary type scenario? Because I've heard stories about Tinley and strip clubs, but that also leaks to Arlington. And I don't know, Bob, tell me, does this happen to every show you go to? Do you close out every strip club at every show that you happen to be popping your head at?
I'll tell you right now, Tinley kind of sucks. I'll be honest, Tinley strip club sucks.
So not the move. Is it because you have to go far into Chicago, or is it just not choice?
Because of Illinois or Chicago's rules, they have a weird rule where the girls are not allowed to dance on you while, I guess, not a public setting, but in front of other people. You have to go to the back. There's this weird thing where you can't touch them. It's a strange place.
The dedication, though, man. Texas is a whole nother story, though. Arlington, you say
this is wide open, man.
Yeah, that's
wide open.
Well, listen, what's crazy about you guys all being here, and I will say Antoine, for the most part, at Arlington, he's there for the party, right? But you guys are there to work. I mean, you work, you play, and then you work, right? But it never seems to stop you from showing up to your table. From what I can see, Bob, you always come ready to play. But, you know, tonight's really talking about the strategy of sales and exactly why maybe some people feel like they aren't selling animals, what the true issue is. And we can maybe, I want to ask you, Bob, the majority of your sales from what it's been for you comes from what outlet? Like where are your majority of your sales coming from right now?
About 30%, a little over 30% of my sales come from shows. So I don't think I would ever get to the point where I would give up the shows entirely. We do very well online. I ship about 10 packages out a week on average. But about 30 to 35% of my sales come from shows. So I don't think I'll ever give that up. It's just such and again, I probably could stagger it back and do most of my sales online. However, I actually do enjoy the interaction and being at the shows a lot. So I don't think I would step away from that.
And since we talked about that just now, what do you feel like the effect has been on people that may have not bought a snake from you right then and there, but at some point it happens? I mean, is that kind of like the norm for you where, I mean, because a lot of people seem to get into their feelings if somebody walks away from their table, and that doesn't mean necessarily they're not going to buy an animal from you. So I mean,
right.
You got
right. Don't think too much if someone is not going to make an impulsive decision at your table to buy a snake. I don't think you should be offended. Again, we tell people don't make a rash decision at the table all the time, even though that's actually one of our closers is, don't rush your decision. And then what about this animal? So give them a big a chance as possible to close that sale down the road and ship them the animal. I feel like I'm a pretty good closer. I sold insurance before I sold snakes, before I did snakes. So I close a lot of sales in person. I think our presence, our overall setup for the shows is kind of inviting, and we do very well at shows because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I mainly met you or knew about you before I really tapped into the game because you and Dave were so close at shows. There was a point where you and Dave were hitting up a lot of shows one year together, right?
We did a lot of shows together, and I'll tell you the reason that we don't vend together anymore is not because we don't get along or anything, because we always hang out after the shows. It's my setup requires six or sometimes 7 tables. His setup requires 4 to 6 tables at a time, and it's extremely difficult to try to buy up an island and get 20, 25, 30 tables, because between me, Josh, Jackie, Adeline, and all that, because well, me and Josh usually vend together. Madeline's kind of been added on with us recently. So between us three, we already take 16 tables together. And to add Dave, that would push us to about 22 to 24 tables. And that's just really difficult for any promoter to do.
Now, Antoine, with you, it's really hard to say. I mean, I like the fact that you've had experience in the game going back to 2010, but I mean, I think it's different when you're tapped into a different tier of the ball python game as far as seeing lack of sales. I mean, not only are you not seeing probably lack of sales through some of the people we know, but you're still buying snakes, right? And you're still involved on adding stuff and moving. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but my strategy is a little bit different. Like, I started vending like last year just because I wanted the experience to do it. I didn't think because I don't produce a whole lot of animals where I need to kind of get on the road like that. But most of my sales are through like Instagram reels. Like, I'll post a 2 fistful of ball python babies, put a song behind it, get 10,000 views or something like that, and then I have 100 messages. Hey, what was the parent on that? And then everything I wanted to sell out of that is gone. That's it, And it could be a person's like first time seeing a ball python to like experienced breeder. So it's everything in that range for me. So I just use the power of social media between my YouTube channel and Instagram reels, and then at the very, very last is Morph Market, which is probably like 10% of my sales overall.
Now, Dave, you're a little bit different situation with your table setup because you're more boa constrictor heavy than anything, or just boas. Am I right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what do you have at your table right now when you go to shows?
I mean, it's going to be a mix. I'm going to bring ball pythons. I'm going to bring boas. I'm going to bring corn snakes if I'm allowed to. I'm going to bring blue tongue skinks. Essentially, whatever we have, depending on the time of the year when we're producing. There are some states that I've noticed over the years that like boas just don't do well in. So like shows like that, I'll probably drop down how many I bring and bring more of something else.
Right.
And then I have some shows like, Arlington is always really good to me. I've got a lot of good boa constrictors. So I'm almost to the point of like the Arlington show where 2/3 or 3/4 of my setup will probably just be boas in the future.
Right. Now, yeah. So, I mean, you guys could all say really, the volume of a show, like meaning the crowd, the audience side really doesn't determine how good sales will be, because I mean, can you guys say that there's been shows where there wasn't that many people and you guys still fucking killed it? And then there's been times where the show's packed and you still didn't sell shit.
Dave? No, nobody.
Oh, yeah, sure, Bob.
I'm not the guest, motherfucker.
I have vended probably 300 shows total. 300 is a lot. Yeah, probably about 300. I've been vending shows for a while. There was years where I did 40 shows a year. So I've kind of gauged what to do at a show, even if it's slow, and which shows to avoid. Now we've cut back this year. I'm only going to do, I think, 17 shows. So with so many shows out there, I mean, you got Show Me Show, Repticons, Herps, Reptilian Nations, NARBC, and all the super shows. You have pretty much a choice of whatever show you want to do every single week. You can avoid a lot of the slower shows if you are a volume seller. Again, I'm a volume seller. When I go to a show, I want to sell 40, 50 ball pythons. If I go out there and I sell 10 ball pythons, I think it's a bust. So if I don't have 5,000 people through the door, I probably won't even show up. So we are lucky. There's so many shows now. We can kind of pick and choose what weekends we want to vend and where we want to be. So that's, but again, for the smaller vendors, if you're only setting up 3 or 5 displays and moving 10 ball pythons is actually going to be good for you because you don't have a lot of volume to move. And you're trying to get your name out there locally. You don't want to travel 12 hours. Having all these smaller shows is actually an advantage for those people too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dave.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, me? Oh, well, me too. Like when you talk about like busy shows and not so busy shows, A really busy show, especially if I'm working by myself. A lot of times I'm really trying to read the person. Sometimes I'll say hello the first time they come over. I'll wait to see them a second time and then engage. But then at shows that are slow, in all honesty, I put 100% effort in every last person that's over there because, you just got it. If I got time, there's no reason not to talk to somebody.
Somebody okay? I feel like someone's getting choked.
Well, Bree is smoking pot over there, and apparently this is their first. I think this is their first time, so she's kind of struggling.
I'm dying.
Hey, Bree,
Yeah,
get it together for me, please. Jesus.
Yeah, a little bit of Jesus Christ life thing, man.
I've seen Bree smoke some serious weed, and she's never coughed that hard ever.
If it gets loud again, just mute me out. It's okay.
I will mute the shit out of you now that I know. Thank you. Hey, keep that shit lit though, Bree. Keep going. Yeah, listen, because I don't know what show was it, Dave, that you were at. Now there was a shit ton of people, and you were just kind of like, what the fuck? Like,
no, I'm just saying that you just depending on the show. Like I said, if it's busy, you got to be more selective about who you talk to. You got to have your own kind of game plan going in. Shows that aren't busy, take your time with the customer, put a lot of time in. I love people in front of the table as long as possible. I like to key in on something, whether it's a piece of clothing with like a sports team on it, or maybe it's a fishing shirt or NASCAR. I at least can engage in a conversation based on what people are wearing normally. And like I said, some shows I'll talk to everybody. Some I wait till they come by the table at least twice.
Okay, let's talk about this. I mean, there might be situations where you might feel you're talking to someone for quite a while, maybe, and maybe you're not too sure what they want to do, but then you see someone else that you have been talking to about a certain snake. Do you normally let that person just get waited on, or do you fucking stop what you're doing right there and say, listen, I gotta go talk to this person because you feel like the sale's more closer over there to close? Like, how do you delegate that? Anyone could go.
It's always got to be Bob first.
Okay,
and
Bob,
then I'll follow.
I'm down for that.
Antoine, jump in whenever you want, bud.
I guess it's a little unfair. I always run a 3 or 4 man team.
Okay.
And I always go for the close. So they always know that they let me go for the close. If the person has any genetics question, breeding questions, it's me. If it's an easy close, like if someone's just looking for a $300 to $500 snake, don't really carry the genetics, I let one of my guys do it. And most of the time I just sit back. And a lot of times, even when I didn't have guys full time, I would bring other breeders along with me that have not vended before or are brand new to vending for experience, basically the free labor. Having some of these new breeders come with you, man, you can have these guys come in and help you just talk. You just need someone to keep that customer at your booth longer. You just need them at your booth longer than any other booth, and you're going to close that sale most of the time. So again, even in Dave's situation where it was just him and Bree, he could invite another. I mean, it's a little bit difficult having someone ride with you along if you're in a smaller vehicle. But again, you can probably post something and have a breeder meet you at the show that's local to help you out at the table. I used to do that before I had my full-time guys. I would just have a vendor in that area meet me there, and they can get some show experience by standing behind the table, basically free labor. But they do get a lot of experience. They get to close some sales. They get excited. They get to bag animals, and it's a lot of fun. So,
and to piggyback off of that, a lot of times where if I don't close the sale right away, I never let them leave empty-handed for the table. Like, even if they like, okay, I'm thinking about this, I'll come back. I'll give them something to remember the table. Like, they'll get a sticker for free or one of these postcards.
Or the slides.
If they got extra T-shirts and stuff like that too, I kind of just bribe them with some stuff too. And usually they're like, oh yeah, I remember this guy. I got his sticker. I came back over there to check you out. Or they'll find me on Instagram later and message me about something on Morph Market. So even if I don't close a deal at a show, sometimes like I'll get a call 3 or 4 days later. Hey, did you sell this? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'll still get a sale that way. So this is fine with me.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I just want to say this is the first time, and I've have over 15 years of sales experience. Sales is all I've ever done before the snake game. But I've never seen it be planned out the way you just said it right now, Bob, where you basically have a team. Like, you have guys that will literally hook them in or just keep them there, right? And then when it comes down to if it's needed, you come through and seal the deal. Now, obviously that you have some sort of deal worked out with all of them, right? Like, if it's a certain deal that they kind of maybe assist on, do you like kind of like tip them out or something, or how's that work? Just for anyone out there who's thinking of this out there and maybe want to do something like this at their table.
If you have a really good salesman, so I used to have my buddy Trev, or he still does the shows with me, but I would tell him every sale he closes, he gets 10% of the sale.
Right.
If I don't help in any way, it's all yours. And again, he would go and close $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 in sales a weekend with me. But now I have full-time guys, so they just come and I pay them a flat fee just to come to the show. They help me drive. Again, for me to get to Arlington, Tinley, Houston, any of those shows is 12-hour ride. So I don't drive those by myself. I usually do the first 3-4 hours, and then I go to the back of the van and sleep. And then I'll have one of my guys drive. Again, you can do some type of deal. They can get credit towards your animals, anything like that, just to get somebody behind your table to help out. Now, the one thing you do want is someone with a decent amount of ball python experience, because there are going to be a lot of new people who has a lot of dumb questions that you're going to want those people to be able to answer and sound fairly intelligent.
And what's crazy is like, it doesn't maybe even take much of training to do that, right? Because a lot of these are basic ask questions, but they're asked frequently. So the more they're kind of smoother accepting these questions, just like in any kind of other sales department, you train on what's being said and what's not being said.
They have a script, pretty much. They'll have a script.
That's cool. That is epic. Listen, guys, we're barely 26 minutes in, just shy of 100 people. I don't know if my eyes are seeing things. I don't know if it's the fucking strain of weed I'm smoking, but how the hell is there only 33 likes? I'm very confused right now. Can we please get the likes up, or I'm gonna have Bree just smoke more weed? I'm gonna have Bree smoke more weed and just cough during this whole fucking episode. Okay, so let's get the likes up right now because we're trying to help you guys sell. This is for you guys. Thank you. You see how I just sold that? That was fucking closed. I closed the shit out of that for those likes. You see that, Bob? You impressed? Pretty hard, huh?
I just liked it, so that's an extra one.
Me too.
Oh my god. Off the top of your head, Bob, do you have a certain show that kind of convinced you that this was it for you? Like, did you have a certain show in your career that was like that pinnacle moment, either the amount of sales or the snake you sold, that just made you realize I'm doing this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, it actually was the Atlanta Repticon. I used to do Repticons every weekend. And I started out doing Repticon Atlanta. I did those every single time, so 4 times a year. Before I started traveling out, I did $7,000 at that show, and that was like
it's a lot.
Stupid money. That was stupid money for me for that weekend.
What year was that?
I came. That was 2016, beginning of 2016.
Wow.
And I came home, and on a Sunday, I put animals away. I went in the house, and I had this little wad of money. I'm showing my wife, like this.
I got you.
And yeah, and she was like, "Man, you had a really good show." And I was like, "Yeah," but she's like, "But why are you not happy?" And I said, "Man, I got to get back in the office tomorrow. I have to yell at people." So my job was to fire people mostly. I hired people too, but I fired a lot of people. I probably fired over 1,000 people while doing insurance. So I was like, I have to go in tomorrow and we have to do numbers, blah, 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 this. And she said, you just made $7,000 in 2 days. And now you want to go back to the office and grind at your office job. And she was like, you don't think you can do that like every few weekends? And I was like, oh, there is a Repticon every weekend. I could be, pretty much at a show every weekend. And so that was it. Actually, after that week, I turned in my notice.
Wow. That's intense. And shout out to Antoine. Antoine grinds. He still works, right, Antoine? You're how far are you from getting to that point where you could kind of hang your boots, your work boots, and get to the trap? You know what I mean?
I'm retiring in 2 years.
Wow, that's not far at all, dude.
So I'm just waiting to see what this economy does and seeing what this political administration thing does in the next couple of years. It's kind of to see how that goes. But I just think it's time. I've been working on this aircraft for almost 25 years. So I enjoy it, but I don't love it anymore. So it's just time to do what I love, man, which is martial arts and these animals. So, and I do pretty well with both. So I just need to work. I think for me, it's more of a discipline than being like financially like mature, because I make a lot of money, but I spend even more. Right. So I just think I just need to like hunker down, and if I don't have that steady paycheck every 2 weeks, I think I'll be a little bit more mindful of my spending and how I do things, So
yeah, I was gonna say, Bob, the reality of that 7,000 that you made, right? How much of that really went back into the snakes?
Probably about 6,500.
You paid for a good dinner. That was it.
Yeah. I paid for my tables.
Oh my gosh. Now, Dave, are you there, buddy?
Yeah, I'm just enjoying the conversation, bud.
Based off you selling ball pythons and boas, what do you see the big difference between the two? Sell when it comes to selling them.
Well, I think it's I find a lot of times when people come by for boas, they're a little more educated on the species. It's a little less of a sales pitch on the animal or what they're looking at. We don't have a lot of.
Oh, we're losing them.
So they kind of get used to the same people kind of coming over for the same certain things like IMGs and so on and so forth. But I think the conversations are different. And I think when you get in different parts of the hobby, you'll find that your approach to certain sales of different species do change because every community really is extremely different from each other.
Yeah. And, Bob, you've obviously ball python's been the foundation. You had boas at one point too, no? Or you still do? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, all my boas are at Eric Seto's place. He's actually coming over next weekend to bring me the babies. We had 4 litters in the last 2 weeks together. Main reason I gave him the boas is because I run my snake room pretty warm. It runs at 78 degrees all year. And my boas just weren't able to cool. And I've only gotten 2 litters out of them out of the years I kept them. And then I gave them to Eric, and literally 1 year later, he's got 4 litters. So he's done them way better than I have, and we're just gonna split some of the babies, and I'm happy with that. I did produce a litter of sand boas once, and according to some of the real boa breeders, that doesn't count. So I'm not a real boa breeder yet. But I do breed some crested geckos and some other gecko species just for fun.
Now, I mean, you do have boas, or ever had boas available at your table, Bob, or no?
Every now and then, yeah, from those litters, but really not anything serious.
And now, even those, how do those sell? Do you feel like? Or do you always feel like you at least get one off or so, or is it just kind of like?
So last year we had the litters from my other boas before I gave them to Eric, and I sold all of them in one show. That was the Atlanta Reptilian Nation show.
Okay.
Atlanta is actually one of my favorite places to sell boas at. There's always a really great crowd for them and a lot of really educated guys down there.
It's a great market overall. Atlanta should have been where one of the NARBCs landed.
Whatever happened to you and Repticon? You guys still done, huh? Like that you've still never gone back, I'm assuming, right?
I have not. They've offered me free tables. They've offered me preferred table placement, but I am a man of my word, and I don't think I'll be back. It's just, honestly, it's better. I've been out to the shows to hang out with my local breeder friends, and it's actually better that I'm not there. Those guys are now, when I'm there, I'm going to take away about $20,000 worth of ball python sales away from these breeders. Wow. By me not being there, everyone's going to make a little bit more money. Everyone's going to get a slice of the pie. Then they can all call me, and I will sell them their next animal. I'm 100% okay with it. I'm so much happier not vending, and I just go out there and hang out and shake hands and kiss babies and deliver snakes.
That was a very honest thing you just said right now, because I feel like a lot of people would never look at it like that. Like, I feel like Tinley is very competition, like it's heavy competition, just because big names are there. And trust me, people come. I run a podcast. People want to come in my ear and talk shit about other big people. And I'm just like, dude, just, and it's all because even the bigger people have hit or miss shows at Tinley. Tinley doesn't guarantee anything like it does. But it seems like for you, Bob, you never have a bad Tinley ever.
No, Tinley has been our best shows. And we've been lucky. The last 3 times I've done Tinley has been, that's our best show. Then the next one is, that's our best show.
Right.
And it's been our best show. Keep moving forward. And I'm hoping that it continues that way, and it's probably going to trend that way because we have a ton of eggs and a ton of gravid females. So by October, Tinley, I'll have a ton of animals. And Tinley is a different beast overall. Yeah. You have to go ahead and get as many pre-sales going. You have to let your good customers text them ahead of time. They're coming. Let them know where your table is. Tell them to meet you on Saturday morning or Friday afternoon. Get that sale done. Get 10 grand in your pocket. Make sure you're having a good day. It's a lot of prep work for that show, because if you just walk from my side, you notice where my side, I'm on the far end of the show.
You're in the corner.
Just walk
Yeah.
from-
Or
yeah, I'm hidden.
Tinley, you're hitting. You're exactly. You're like way from everything else. It's crazy.
Right, but from my side of the show to get to Dave's side of the show, it's like a half-mile hike, and you have to go through the death row of ball pythons. You're going through the Justins, the Levants. You're going through the Mark Bailey. Well, Mark Bailey's no longer there. I don't think he's been vending for a while. But you have to go through Garrett DeMeyer. You have to go through all these big names to get between my table and Dave's table. So the advantage that I have is on my side of the show, I'm probably the biggest ball python vendor under that little canopy area, right? You have me, you have Morph Jungle, you have very few ball python guys under that canopy area, but I'm right at the entrance. When you take the entrance, you're gonna go right because Junior's right there with all the hog noses.
Yeah,
you got
JMG.
Serpents, you got all those guys right there. So they usually go right at the entrance. I'm the first ball python breeder they're gonna see. That's a significant size.
Yeah.
And I have probably their first 20-30 minutes to close them on that sale, because once they leave my aisle, once they leave my area, they're never coming back. Once they get over there and they get distracted by the other 4,000 ball python breeders, they are not coming back. I tell all my guys the same thing. You have 30 minutes to close them, and you need to you need to get all the money you can out of them there. Once they leave our table, that's it. When they say, "Oh, I might come back for this animal," they won't. There's 6,000 other ball pythons that look almost identical to the one we have, and there's someone else willing to cut a better deal. So we need to close them. So for Tinley, it's very competitive. You need to close deals early. It's not like going to a Reptilian Nation show where there's only 20 ball python breeders. It's way less competitive. So yeah, Tinley is different. But if you plan ahead of time and you know your game plan going in, like Dave says, each show you have a different game plan. That show is as soon as I talk to you, I'm going to close you. I'm going to try to close that sale pretty much immediately.
I love hearing this kind of talk, man. When you're a sales guy, you love hearing this shit. It's like fucking boiler.
You're a sales guy. I mean, that is the sales tactic, right? So if you know deep down there's $1,000, it's $1,000 animal, but you're willing to take 800. Don't bullshit back and forth and wait for them to make another offer. See what they're thinking. Just throw that thing out there and be like, all right, cool, man. 800's the deal. That's the deal.
Right.
If that's the number that you wanted anyways in the first place, you wanted 800 for that animal. You marked it at 1,000. You're already willing to take 800. Just throw that deal out there, because 5 minutes he's gonna walk down that very next aisle and he already forgot about your table, because Tinley is so overly stimulating. You're walking around and there's vendors everywhere you look, because the aisles are 6 foot apart. On your right or on your left is another breeder and there's another species. So for this newer keeper especially. They're there, but they're not really 100% sure what they're even looking for, unless a vendor or a buyer is there looking exactly for that one animal you have only. Then yes, you'll get that sale regardless. But if that person is not really sure what they're looking for, by the time they walk off your table, 5 minutes, they're gone, man. Because if you walk down from my table, you walk down 2 aisles, you got Garrett DeMeyer, okay, and he has a huge ball python spread, awesome ball pythons there. And then boom, you walk one aisle over, and you have the death row of Justin's aisle, right? You have Justin, you have MERSHON, you got all those guys on the same aisle. That aisle is crazy competitive. You know, you got Core DeLong, and you got all these big names. So once they walk off your table in Tinley, they're gone. You know, close that sale. Just go ahead and go with the number you wanted, and go ahead and close them.
What's standing out to me right now, Bob and Antoine and Dave, is if you're listening to how Bob is throwing this out there, it's in a sense of like Tinley's Tinley, right? But a vendor should not go to Tinley expecting Tinley's promotion to get the job done for you. Like, you got the slot, like you're in there, right? But you have to do all that fucking hit up all your Patreon members, hit up all your followers, like pending sales, whatever, because I don't know what it is, man, but I love seeing a table that's packed. I mean, sometimes it's annoying, right? But when you see a lot of people at a table, their shit's cracking over there, and it attracts more people, and it makes the day go by quick. I mean, Bob, how many times you have some people who have long days because they ain't talking to nobody. But how many times have you had days just go by quick? Because it's just been nonstop. I'm sure it helps.
Tinley is like that. Tinley and Daytona go by very fast.
Right.
When the door opens and then all of a sudden it's lunchtime, all of a sudden it's 2:00, and you're like, man, I got 3 more hours to make something happen. Or you can be like, oh man, 3 more hours and you have to sit here for 3 more hours. It depends on the show, man.
Yeah.
I've been to some slow shows where you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, it's only 1 o'clock.
Right.
I got 4 more hours of this crap. You're sitting and staring at Dave from the other side of the room. Me and Dave's been there. Okay, we've been to those shows.
Dave hasn't blinked since 12 and it's 5.
Yeah, it sounds better.
I think we've played cornhole at shows before. We've been bored at shows before. But Tinley is not one of those shows. Tinley and Daytona, it zooms by pretty quick.
No,
Yeah.
Dave. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you have time to visit your friends at Tinley, you're probably not working hard enough.
Dave, you're very, you're behind the scenes, but you're not, like, meaning people know you at shows. But when it comes to social media, Dave, I have to drag your ass sometimes into the scene sometimes. But do you feel like, Dave, like if you did find a way to kind of get the social media rolling a bit, that your shows might go more consistently better versus hit or miss? Do you feel like?
I mean, you're not wrong. Honestly, that's probably the one thing I'm lacking, and I wasn't always that way, unfortunately. At one point we got our Instagram up to like 42,000 followers. There was name recognition there and everything else, and then abruptly I lost it all. Someone hacked our account, started deleting all our content. Wow. I got on the phone with Instagram. I had a buddy from the FBI, or a friend of a friend from the FBI, give me a direct number. We're on the phone. They're telling us apparently there's nothing they can do to help us. Complete shit show. Honestly, that kind of like took the wind out of my sails. And, we talked about it. I've had a couple things go in the hobby where I don't always enjoy being in the public spotlight. So it makes the social media thing very difficult.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's going to be a big resurgence for you soon because I wanted to plug the book I'm working on right now. It's called Letters from My Friend David. And and it's going to be a bunch of excerpts from our fucking DMs for the past 2 years. And I got an animator that's going to redo and do a bunch of AI art to all the pictures you've been sending me forever. And I'm going to auction that book off at one of the big shows. So I think it's going to be a smash hit.
That book's going to be rated R.
It's a lot of editing I'm doing right now. And I got like somebody else looking, hey, we can't post this one. We can't post this one. But it's enough that's going to make the cut. That's going to be real dope. So, dude, it's going to be a one-on-one book. I'm spending a lot of time and money on, but I think it's going to be really worth it, and it's going to be badass. So, and I talked to Dave about it like briefly at one of the shows, and he said, "Hey, man, do what you got to do. Let's do it." So, hey, man, I'm running with this shit. It's going to be crazy.
I appreciate the love. You brought that up to me when we were down in Arlington hanging out by the bar, I think on Sunday or Saturday night. But no, I appreciate the love, man. Bob gets some of my jokes. I've been sending MJ some jokes lately. I don't even really know if they're jokes. I'm just glad you guys like it.
I mean, they make me laugh. I mean, and they make me smile, even though there's times I don't want to smile. Whatever you send me, Dave, it's you. I mean, you're a one-of-a-kind player. Now, Antoine, I want to kind of give you props on you and all the homies props. Something that I felt was beneficial to you getting your feet wet with vending is you collabing with the homies, right? So, you got Troy Schroeder, shout out to Bob's Balls. You got Jacob, Letter Better Fetter from Sybil, Andrew Redwood. You get, how beneficial do you feel like it is vending with a group of people like that?
Well, it's always cool, like when you're all really good friends and you guys aren't like competing with each other and you got different projects. Yeah. But having Troy along, like the OG as far as vending goes and traveling and that grind, just be able to pick his brain all the time with stuff like that as far as like setup and sales and different strategies. I think we did 3 or 4 shows together. I was able to kind of experiment with my stuff and how I wanted to do things. And, they were just really supportive about all of us selling animals and then switching up and helping each other out. It's just forced by numbers, man. We just a big movement at a lot of these shows. We call ourselves the Avengers when we show up. That's how I advertise it. And a lot of people come just to come hang out and buy animals. And I freaking love it, man. Like the Vegas show. I mean, for those of you who were there, I had like a DJ / bartender / stripper with my fucking running around selling animals and stuff too. And I did pretty well, man. I mean, it wasn't a big show by any means, but it paid for the trip. It paid for the weekend, it paid for the UFC fights, and it was a good time, man. So just vending with the homies and having a good time, whether I'm like killing it or just kind of doing enough to get by, is always a fun experience. So, and I appreciate those guys all the time.
Now, Bob, oh, good.
Oh, no. One thing on what Antoine said, though, and it really does go a long way at the show. Bob knows it. Josh knows it. if any of us don't have the right animal for a customer, we're trying to do something where they might need another ingredient for what we have.
Mhm.
I send them to Bob's table. I walk them over and say, so this animal over here, you're looking at me, look at what Bob has over this. They're going to complement it better. I got a lot of yellow belly complex. Well, cool. You guys have a lot of the gravel and a lot of the asphalt stuff. So, it's humbling. And I think it actually goes a long way because when you take the selfishness off the table in a sale, I think it's better for the customer. It's better for you. And there's no reason not to help people out at the shows.
And what I was going to get to about that, Bob, dude, since I've came into the game, which was late 2016, I kind of see you already on like you were already going in, I saw you as one of the top people, like really putting shit out there, but it hasn't stopped. Like I've seen you just continue to like up the ante every year. And that has to make people feel some type of way. It's just natural when somebody's doing that good in something and the other person isn't. It's human nature sometimes for them to feel some type of way. Have you ever had to maybe like break away from people like that? Like, even though like, man, like it's unfortunate, but like maybe they made you feel like a little bit of jealousy and like maybe you guys used to vend next to each other. Who knows? But like, have you ever had a weird situation like that where it's unfortunate, but you had to make the right call and do what you had to do because of that feeling?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man, because I've tried in my years in the industry to try to get other guys to improve and help them as much as possible. Yeah. But in some situations, it just doesn't work out. And they have, and most vendors, even when you vend with me for the first time, that you just have to understand, I've been doing this longer than most of the vendors I vend with. I'm not saying I've been doing this longer than most of the breeders, because there are breeders out there that have done this for longer than I've been alive. But a lot of those guys don't vend shows at a very high pace anymore, like I still do. So when I'm vending a show with someone, they're just gonna have to understand that I'm going to outsell you. It's not my competitive drive. It's nothing like that. I'm going to outsell you just by the sheer volume of animals I bring to the show most of the time. Wow. I bring anywhere between 200 and 250 ball pythons to a show. I'm going to outsell you because you only brought 50. It's just numbers. And sometimes, you could be a person vending with me, vending across the table, vending the opposite side of the show. We've heard it all. We've heard guys get mad just when we show up to the show and start setting up, and it's unfortunate, because I'm not there to ruin anybody's good time. I will walk a customer to your table and close the sale for you if you have the right animal that customer is looking for. So it does suck sometimes. I've heard a lot of rumors about me or my, or something like that, how our business is. And sometimes it does suck. Because
wait. So people have actually made rumors about you, Bob? Are you kidding me? Like, so now, it just kind of shows the proof. I mean, if you're doing something, someone's always going to talk.
Oh man, I've heard it all. I get it all the time. Wow. Before you came in to the industry, MJ, I want to say the industry was possibly at a even worse state of drama. Right now, I feel like the industry is pretty good. Even with the drama we have going on now, it's pretty mild. Back then, Dave, you remember the Natita group?
Yep.
Oh shit.
Who's that? Okay, do fresh.
The terrorists.
It's the Natita. It stands for Noobs in the Industry to Avoid. And
Whoa, I like that.
It was a group of hyper elitist keepers where they would go in there and post about, like, anytime someone posts a picture, and if there's anything even remotely wrong about your setup or anything small, they will nitpick it and then they will tear you apart. Not to mention, it was an extremely racist group. I was in there a lot. All the made in China stuff. That's why the prices are cheaper. There was a lot of memes about me and my family. Hey, there you go. Full Throttle's in here. Tom P. If you guys are an old school breeder, you would know Tom Pecanic. He was the leader of that group.
Tom P. I know what Tom P means now.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Other crazy crackhead races. I'm sure he'll get wind of this somehow, and there'll be another post about me, but it's okay. And they were an elitist group where they would make fun of new keepers. If someone posts a picture of a snake in a fish tank, if you will, with a lamp on it, they're going to message this person and tell them how dumb they are. They make no attempts to help people with their husbandry. It was just mostly belittling people. And we didn't have much room for that in the industry as it was. So I was battling them hardcore for a few years. And yeah, it was the drama industry back then, quite a few years ago, was much worse. I mean, with Miguel, he's faced the racism that he's from posting his Spanish channel, all of that. Antoine, I'm sure you faced a little bit of racism being half black and half Chinese. So
I fucking hate you.
Dave attacked because he's gay.
Yeah, all the time, man, all the time. With none of the benefits, buddy. With none of the benefits.
Your month, Dave. It's your month. You celebrate.
Oh my gosh.
All month, buddy.
But
That's
Bob,
crazy.
I wanted to piggyback off what you're saying about like a lot of people, competitors, and like saying stuff about you.
I gotta take a leak. I can hear it. I gotta keep going. I gotta take a leak.
All right, dude. For the new people that's in the comment section and people going to see this in the future that's thinking about getting to this, I don't care if you pick up the exact same collection that Bob has and do the exact same shows he has and use the same amount of marketing. I don't care if you came up like I did and has a similar collection and had like YouTube and Instagram presence and stuff like that too. Remember this, guys. Not everybody can go. What I mean by that is that you have to have a combination of all these other intangibles that make you successful at whatever endeavor you have. So, like, if you go out, if right now somebody went out there and bought Justin's entire collection, they would not be able to do what Justin does.
Yeah.
You know, like people have to realize that, man. So other than like having a dope animals and, having everything dialed in that way too, between your personality, how you are with people, how you treat other people, how you treat other breeders, how you interact with strangers who just come into your DMs and ask you the stupidest questions and you can help them out without sounding like a fucking asshole. A lot of the stuff is important, man. And it's like a culmination of a lot of different things that build your presence up in this community, man. So if you don't have it all, you're not going to have the same results. So just nitpicking at what you want to do here and there, like, oh, I got a lot of cool snakes, but I hate people. I can't show my face. With so many people out here breeding and selling these animals, I want to spend my money on somebody that I can trust, that I can physically see, So if Bob has an animal and the other person has an animal, I'd rather pay more money with Bob than the unknown person because I'm sending my hard-earned cash to somebody that I know has a reputation, has something to lose if you screw somebody over like this. So a lot of people just want to sit in the cut and think they're going to put two snakes together, have some eggs, pop them out and sell them, and it's going to go like hotcakes. That's not the truth at all, man. It's just the market is just way too saturated, and you have to have all these other attributes about you to make these things go.
Yeah,
I think Antoine. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
Oh no, you go ahead. I'll come in after you.
Okay, I think Antoine, that mentality of I'm gonna breed a snake, I'm gonna hatch a snake, people are gonna buy my snakes, is 20 years ago, right? Because you have a brand new gene when you produce pastels or enchies or whatever, they have to buy from you. You're the only person with that gene.
Yep.
But now we're not doing anything special. Great, I made a spot-nosed leopard yellow belly clown. Okay, there's 42 of those on Morph Market.
Yep.
I made a DG clown. There's probably 50 of those on Morph Market. There's nothing that separates this animal from that animal. And you can say all you want. Oh, but this is Justin Kabilko quality or Bob's quality or Wilbank. It doesn't really. I have seen some brand new guys hatch their very first clutch of ball pythons. And I'm like, that's quality animals. Again, there's nothing stopping you from buying an animal from Justin, producing your own clutch. That's still Justin's quality of animals. However, so if you're going to a show, let's say Tinley, there's probably 100 different people there with the exact same animal. So what's going to differentiate you from that very next table? Are you going to be the guy that's going to have the lowest price? Sometimes I feel like a few vendors feel like that's their only advantage is I'm cheaper than everybody else. They are the Dollar General out of all the breeders, right? I'm cheaper than everybody else. That's why you should buy from me. Sure, you can go with that mentality. Sure, you can go with that marketing scheme. Or like Antoine said, all the intangibles, right? You can buy from me because you know that I will stand behind this animal. I am going to talk to you. I'm going to talk you through the whole process. I will talk you through the breeding process when it comes time for it, and I will help you ID this clutch. There are some other things you can offer to close that deal rather than just, well, I'm cheaper than his, you know. And a lot of these guys, if you're buying a $2,000 animal anyways, what's the difference of $2,000 animal versus $2,100 animal? Right. So at that investment level, you're going to put more than $1,000 worth of rats into the snakes anyways, before rats and care. Right. If we're counting that animal costs roughly $10 a week to maintain in a rack, roughly. Right. It the rats, bedding, rack space, time, and maintenance. Okay. So $10 a week on average for a decent sized breeder, not buying everything wholesale at that point. But yeah, $10 a week. That's $500 a year. That's $1,500 before that animal lays eggs. Okay. So if you're dropping $1,500 in worth of maintenance on that animal before that animal lays eggs for you, what's the difference of paying $2,000 versus $2,100 on that animal right now anyways? That $100 might be what actually gets you those eggs. That breeder might be behind that animal and help you through that process and help you ID that clutch and help you with the pairings that you might need down the road. So I feel like that's where a lot of these quote unquote bigger breeders are making a lot of their sales, is that people are able to depend on these guys down the road. Okay, I ran off on a tangent. Yeah, Dave, you go ahead.
No,
Josh Jackie's excited.
Josh, what up, Josh?
Josh is always excited.
That's my big bro right there. I love that dude, man.
Hey, you deserve that drink, by the way, Bob. You just killed that shit. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, kind of like dabbling on both of what these guys said, you know, starting like what the Anton said. You know, it's so difficult to be a good breeder. It's so difficult to be a good artist. It's so difficult to be a good salesman. And then, you know, your personality is your personality. You know, you don't have to change who you are behind the table. You just got to figure out a way to make it relate to what you're doing in a way where it closes deals, essentially.
Dave, I can't tell you how many people have come to me and said, man, I met Dave Levinson. I talked to him at his table, and they were like memorized by it. Like the thing is, Dave, people love talking to you. And that's a good thing to have. There's just people out there who just rather not put in the effort, and they expect the sales to just kind of come to them because maybe they've had shows. I mean, maybe were shows ever at a time, guys, that you could think where you didn't have to do shit and you fucking sold shit? Like you could just show up or was that never ever the case?
Never for me.
So, there's a stigma about me, right? About going to shows, whether I'm vending or visiting, that a lot of people will say, hey man, you're always on, right?
Yeah. And
I always used to be bugged out about that. I was like, what do you mean I'm always on? It's like, well, it's almost like when we interact with each other, it's like we know each other forever and we're good friends and we're hanging out. And that's because being a public figure, I want to make sure that that initial experience with me is something that like you remember for a long time. So there's a comedian, you guys know who Bert Kreischer is? Yeah. I remember him talking about this on a podcast. He said, if I do 4 shows a night, comedy shows, every single show is just as good or better as the next, because it might be that one person who's coming to my show for the first time, who never heard of me, who got drugged to the show for some comedy and didn't expect much. But when I went out there and killed it every single time, I got somebody else to watch my stuff, somebody else to buy my merch. You know what I mean? So It's always about that good experience. And when you buy something from somebody, you don't want to have buyer's remorse. Like if I spend $2,000 on an animal from somebody, let's say $2,000, I want to feel good about that purchase. I don't want to walk away from the table and be like, oh man, I could have spent this on, something else. So that human experience, man, is important when you got people spending money with you and trusting you, man. So when you can walk away from somebody's table with a big smile on your face because they gave you the time of day and had a real good conversation, you took some pictures with them, you tagged them, you repost them on Instagram and Facebook, all that stuff goes a long way, man. So it just banks all the time, man. So just keep selling yourself that way, man, and just making sure that you have people to come along, to come in your life, interact with you, that have really good experience, is my point.
So I'm gonna lay something out for everyone right now, and I'm sure Bob could kind of connect with this easily. My biggest background majority was wireless sales. Like I worked for Verizon corporate for a long time, and even the sales rep in Verizon made good money. At Verizon corporate, like back then, you made good coin, right? But then I met people in the B2B department, in the business department, and they fucking Those were the real ballers. Like they all had Mercedes and shit like that. I would go have lunch with them, and I would tell myself like, how do I get in here with these guys? And basically, some of the guys would tell me like, dude, you never know who's going to be at your table, like you, or it might be at your counter. You might have someone in there to pay a bill. You might have somebody to fucking buy a car charger, but if you don't ask, you never know if that person is a business owner. So basically, I started hustling and asking people, do you own a business? Or even looking at their accounts. If I saw they had a business, I would talk to them about business shit. And next thing you know, I'm looking at people to open up 10, 15, 20 phone lines now, which has to go through them, and I get all the props. So you never know who the fuck you're going to be talking to at a show. I mean, it could literally just go from one end to the other, from just like, hi, my name is so-and-so. And next thing you know, there's a $20,000 transaction. You know what I mean? I mean, Bob, how many times has that happened where you never even met the guy and he's dropping fucking serious coin with you?
So one interesting point that my guys made to me in Houston, again, these are guys that are not as seasoned. I brought one of my newer guys, Aaron. He's only vended 4 shows ever. And he closed a good bit. He did $7,000 in sales by himself in Houston. And again, his 4th show ever. And he noticed something, and he asked me, are reptile breeders racist, like overall? And I said, well, no, I mean, obviously not. I mean, I'm, and they're working with me, and there's, Antoine or whatever. And I said, what makes you think that? Well, he said a lot of his sales were to black people at the show. And he was like, and the main reason was that the black people who came to the show will come to our table later and said, well, you guys are the first booth who talked to us. And I said, well, surely that's not true. Again, we're from Atlanta. Okay. So if you don't learn how to interact with people that are not exactly the same color as you in Atlanta, you just won't do business here. Right. Because it's very mixed here in Atlanta. And when I went to Houston, I was so surprised by some of these vendors who, if a black couple comes up to them, they're going to fold their arms and sit back because they're thinking in their head, black people don't buy snakes. We'll leave this one to go. And I've watched vendors come to Atlanta to vend shows and not make money because of this, because they refuse or avoid certain colored people. And I'm watching them lose money. And again, I'm not telling you, only talk to black people to make sales. Treat everyone as if they're the same person. Everyone is a customer. Everyone should be the same, treated the same. But I'm watching these vendors just like avoid certain people because they don't think a sale is going to happen. And one of my biggest sales in Houston was a guy that came up, gold chain on, and he had a Houston Rocket jersey on, and I ragged on his team a little bit, and we BS back and forth about the Rockets, and then all of a sudden he bought a $2,000 snake. Just because we're just chatting at the time. And he said, hey, let me see the snake real quick. Boom, he whips out $2,000 and we're closing the deal. And that sale could have went to almost any other vendor because the guy had no idea about snakes. He was buying a pet. He was there to buy a pet.
Dude, that's where they get it screwed up at. Black people spend money. They just don't fucking tip. That's the difference. That's the difference. No matter how much they spend in the bar, they're going to tip $5. That's it. So,
but they gonna spend some money.
They spend money. They just don't understand the tipping structure for some reason. And so that's it. So people get that screwed up all the time. And I'm trying to explain to people. So new vendors out there, black people spend money, just don't have a tip jar by them.
Mexicans are worse. They steal the tip.
I mean, you're watching again, Antoine, in the Black Reptile Owners Group, the reptile industry is growing, and you're watching these different ethnic groups. I'm watching more Asian people, more Hispanic people, more black people get into the industry. Then the reason they didn't 10 years ago, because it wasn't acceptable for them to join the industry, right?
Right.
Inside the black community, if you owned a reptile, to all your black friends, that you're weird. You're weird guy that owns, you're a weirdo. You're the weird black guy that owns a reptile. Yeah. I was the weird Asian kid that owned snakes growing up. None of my Asian friends owned a snake. I was the only Asian person that owned a snake, and I knew a lot of Asian people. So again, even at Reptile Show now, there's like 4 black guys and 2 Asian dudes, and it's me, Antoine. I mean, Antoine is 1.5 black guy and Asian guy. So
I mean, Dave, let's be real, Dave. I mean, where have you kind of seen racism take a part into like sales at a show? I mean, can you kind of like relate to seeing that from the sidelines, or going from so many different shows across the country? You witness any of that?
Looks like he's a black right now, but
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
blackface. He's blackfacing.
And
You're
so
not,
it's,
you're not looking good right now, buddy.
yeah, well, I don't want to sound like a real piece of shit, but I've never actually put race like out there when it came to sales. Like I said, I like talking to everybody. Sometimes it'll be more what people are wearing. If you want to talk about like judging a book by its cover, maybe somebody rolls up to your table with like some holes in their shirt, like, you know, maybe stuff like that. But one of the biggest Repticon sales I had ever had was a $6,500 sale to a kid in flip flops with ratty shorts on and a, what the fuck was he wearing? A Rick and Morty shirt.
nice.
Most people probably wouldn't give him the time of day. When he asked to see the animal that he wanted, I kind of said, man, we just don't take the expensive stuff out unless you're really thinking about it. And at that point, he took his card out. And yeah, I probably would have let him hold it no matter what. But yeah, yeah, like I said, I usually don't really think about the race side of things. Honestly, I usually just judge people by what they're wearing, and you know, I look at watches. If I see a real nice watch, I'm a piece of shit. I'll probably talk to you a little longer. But yeah, no, I don't know. I guess I didn't really think about that.
Yeah. Do you have anyone like on the India side of the spectrum? I want to recruit this guy, my homie Piyush Patel. So if we could have him be a part of someone who gets, you know, racist slurs on, let us know, man. We'll have you be a part of this. Not that it's probably good, but yeah. Anyways, so yes or no, true or false? The term tire kicker, is that a real term? You guys feel like?
Yes. Fuck yeah.
I'm gonna hear what Bob thinks about the term tire kicker.
I'll be honest, my closing rate on Morph Market's pretty good. I get very few. Can I get more pictures and then don't close? I'm not sure because I see a lot of people complaining on the I think the Morph Market Facebook group about how many people ask for pictures and yada yada and ask all these questions and then never close. That's just part of the deal, right? You know your closing rate. Everyone should know their closing rate. They're in the sales business. If you're going to get 10 inquiries, you should close 3 or 4. And again, on a day where you don't get 10 inquiries or, you know, a week where you don't get 10 inquiries is a problem. So I don't care if someone sends an inquiry and asks for pictures. I already know if I get 3 more of those, I'm closing a sale. So realistically, in the sales game, we used to tell people all the time, count your no's, because after 4 no's, you're going to get a yes if your closing rate's 25%. You know, so again, I don't really care that much about tire kickers. I care a lot about my closing rate. So once I get 5, 6 inquiries and I'm not closing a sale, then that does become a problem, and I do get angry about that. But so not so much about the tire kicker. You have people, new people, looking at what Darian's doing right now and his advertising. I have probably sold at least 8 out of my last 10 sales were to people who were buying their first few animals, and they just stumbled upon my page and they're buying their first few animals. So you got to consider also when they're buying a new animal, they went on Morph Market. They did not seek my page out specifically. They're looking through a bunch of pages, a bunch of animals. They're going to basically look for whoever's going to respond to them quickly, in a nice way, and whatever type of animal they like the most, and they're going to make that decision. You can't rush them into a decision. They're going to ask probably 4 or 5 breeders before they choose an animal, and you just have to understand that and understand your closing rate, you know.
And to talk about the tire kicker scenario on the Morph Market side of things, you have people that like, to me, I'm just like, I don't know. I obviously know when there's a time and place where someone's fucking taking me on for a ride, but I word it right. You know, I won't, I just word it right, you know, and then I'll give them less energy if that's the case, and I'll let them give me more energy. But I do know that like when you go out there and call someone a tire kicker publicly, sometimes that person feels like their identity's fucked. Like now, like you made me look like this person who will never buy something, and that could maybe have a long-term effect, I feel like. So that's why I feel like, I mean, if you're not, first and foremost, if you're having problems selling, tire kicker shouldn't even exist to you. That term, you can't think like that, because motherfucker, you ain't selling nothing anyways. So you go talk to a tire kicker. Maybe something might happen. You never know. But I feel like, you know, Bob, you know, have you ever been in a slump? Have you ever been like, you know, back in sales where you just feel like you're in something's up, like you just,
Yeah, like I mentioned, if I'm going, like again, back when I was doing insurance, my closing rate's about 40%, and I knew that. And if I knew every 10 appointments I book, I will see this many people. Every time I get in front of 10 people, I'm closing 4 sales. My average sale was about $600. I knew how much money I'm going to make in a week based on how many appointments I have. But whenever that number deviates, I have a full week or 2 weeks where I'm booking 30, 40, 50 appointments and I'm closing 2 sales, then you go into this kind of weird slump and you start to blame a lot of different things. But that's just numbers. Again, just because your closing rate average is 40%, just because Steph Curry shoots 40% from 3 doesn't mean he's gonna hit every, you don't expect him to hit four threes every game just because he shot 10. So you have bad nights, you have bad weeks, you have bad months, and you gotta chuck it up to luck sometimes. Bad luck. You saw a bunch of broke people that week. That's just part of the deal. You might see a bunch of guys, and you might close a bunch next week. That's why there's an average, but it's not a guaranteed. It is an average.
But how many times do the waves come back though, Bob? Like when you keep your head in the game and you fucking don't obviously it's going to eat you up, but eventually it comes back. Like if you're
it's just like being at a show. You'll sit at the show from 9 o'clock in the morning to 1 p.m. and you've closed $300 in sales, and you're like, that's it. I'm done. I'm never working another show. And then from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m., you close $20,000 worth of sales or something, some ridiculous number I'm making up, because that would never happen. But yeah, and then you close $20,000 of sales in a few hours. It literally could happen just like that, especially at a reptile show, and especially for ball python guys, because we already know there's $4,000 or $5,000 animals on the table. You close 2 or 3 of those, you have a good show. For ball python guys, it's totally different than anyone that sells a lot of volume, like the guys who sell wood or in small enclosures or dry goods. For dry goods, you need sustained amount of sales throughout the whole show, because you need to sell so much inventory to close $30,000 in sales. For ball python guys, hell, I've stood in front of Mark Bailey's table at Tinley 2018 and watched him sell 20 snakes in an hour. So it could happen like that.
Hey, zero social media. Mark Bailey's gangster, bro.
That dude is. He is something else. I mean, I stood in front of his tables. I'm just watching this man sell 20 ball pythons in front of me in an hour. And I bought a few of them, but still, he's a closer. I mean, he's good at what he does.
Yeah, man. Shout out to the sponsor of tonight's episode, Mark Bailey Reptiles. But here's the thing too. It's like, Mark, I've talked to Mark quite a bit, and he stays on top of his shit. Like he stays in communication with whoever it is that he needs to stay on top of. And, I'm begging him, like, bro, just start posting a little bit on social media. He's like, yeah, you're right. He's like, but I don't need to. And he's kind of like, but I'm like, but Bob, you would even say though, and he listens to this podcast. So if Mark did kind of start going social media, do you feel like even though he's doing good now, he would do even that much better?
He could. I feel like he already, like so many of us know him and know to go to him for stuff. It's, what would he post? Oh, yes, I feel like his business page, he could probably post everything he's hatching and get some interest. But right. You already know, both between all of us, he's not going out here, between all 4 of us, he's not going out here making memes and posting funny reels, So I think it would just be his business page posting stuff that's hatching to build some interest to move animals a little faster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think, I mean, Mark's also too, he's been in good projects at good times. He's been around for a long time. I think he was a Honduran guy way back in the day. I think there's a lot, like, when I go by his table, I look at his stuff all the time because there's always something on there that I want to buy.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, by the way? Am I breaking up?
No, we're good. You're just,
am I just not hitting right now? Okay.
No, you're good. Your sound's good.
You're good,
just
man.
So quiet when I talk.
You're good, You're good, Mr. Seafood Tower.
Yeah, appreciate that. I
bet you Troy put you out to that bullshit too, huh?
See that guy with that best dressed balls thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking smack him when I see him. Anyway,
I never say no to Troy, so I'm not even gonna apologize. I couldn't say no.
Bob, I'm trying to figure this out because Dave's been doing shows just as long as you, if not longer. Am I right, Dave? Dave, you've been doing
longer than me, yeah.
Okay. So, Bob, how often are you flying to shows versus driving now?
Oh, I always drive.
You never fly?
I never fly.
Oh, okay, I was gonna give you
Not
shit.
to a
Dave.
show. I might fly out to California. I think I'm gonna do the January show. I'll fly
Yeah.
out there to hang out, and that's about it.
There you
Damn.
go.
Now, listen, Bob, I've been on your bumper a little bit about you coming to a West Coast show for quite a while, and that's looking to be in the works as far as you just coming to show your face or actually vending.
No, I'm just gonna come. Josh is gonna vend, and I'm gonna come and just stand behind the table and hang out. It's just too far of a drive to get my animals. I've considered, and I've looked through the options of shipping. I've looked through. It's just too risky to ship, $200,000-$300,000 worth of inventory, and it's just too much of a mess. And I said, I think I'm gonna enjoy my time a lot more if I fly in stress free, just hang out. Me and Antoine gonna ride to Tijuana. We'll just have a good night, and we're just gonna enjoy it that way.
I'll take you. Listen, I got these VIP taco tour wristbands, which Antoine has a lifer wristband. So listen, we're gonna go on a taco tour before we go hit up those legendary spots of Antoine's and TJ. They know him, man. I'm telling you right now. Hey, but hold on, bro. Shit's cracking though. There was a big bust at Hong Kong, wasn't there? What? And not Hong Kong. We're talking Tijuana, HK. Is that safe to take Bob to? I think we should chill for a little bit, man. I don't know.
Oh no, they're back open. It was an isolated incident. A sailor may or may not have allegedly thought he was doing cocaine, and it was all fentanyl, and he died. So
Fortunate.
So FBI got involved, and CID from the Navy and all that stuff too, and they just shut it down for a bit, pending investigation. And then after they concluded what happened, they opened back up.
Yeah, Bob don't do drugs, so I think we're good.
No, we're good.
Good.
Yeah.
Dave, you might need to stay back, buddy. Sorry.
I don't do those kinds of drugs, buddy.
Just kidding. I know you don't. You don't need to. Clearly, you're high off life all the time.
Yeah.
Guys, reality of having a website, having that be a priority, right? Like, let's say your years are good and you got stuff to sell. Should you just not rely on Morph Market totally and have a website? You feel like, how important is that?
I don't even have a website, bro.
I don't have a website.
Not at
Yeah,
all.
well, hey, I'm gonna throw it out there though. American Made. I think most of his sales were through his website. I think he makes more through his website than he actually does on Morph Market and shows.
He's been doing that platform for years, Dave. So for me to start a brand new website and think it would perform the same,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be the reality of it.
Oh, you're not wrong. I'm just saying it is possible though.
Yeah, I think it's again, it's 2023. People don't want to have to go to an individual website to do anything anymore. They would trust going through Morph Market almost more, being that it's a more well-known website. I talked to Brock Wagner. Brock was giving me his stats on running Brock Wagner his website and keeping it updated, the amount of hours it takes to maintain, and how much foot traffic he was getting through there. It just wasn't worth that. Again, I've considered websites. I've considered all of it, and it's just not worth running a individual website.
I mean, unless you're doing like tons of advertising. So, like, I know sometimes I go through Facebook and Instagram, and I'll see like Brian Carter's website.
Brian Carter, every
all
freaking
the time,
every
everywhere.
other ad. Is
You know
Brian
what I mean?
Carter.
So unless it's one of those deals too, and but I know him. I know what he has and stuff too. So, but I don't need to click on his stuff to see what he has. But if I was just like some casual guy looking around for stuff, that would help me. But I just don't see like the people who are my target audience need a website from me.
Now, what's the best way to take advantage of everything that Morph Market has to offer, in your opinion, Bob? And obviously you too, Dave and Antoine. I feel like it's just a lot, it's a lot more than just getting a table at a show. Do you feel like the way you take pictures, the time you post, that type of stuff, like, are there strategic things to Morph Market that people may not know about?
So it's going to be more and more challenging for the new keeper. You can't just post a picture anymore because now there's popularity. You can browse by popularity. How many likes that ad has will pump it to the front. The picture, in my opinion, has always been a thing. You remember Ralphie, Antoine, and
Ralphie Martinez.
Ralphie? He
Yeah.
made a really good video talking shit about people taking pictures to sell their product. And he was like, you guys are taking pictures with a calculator and expecting someone to buy your snake when Justin is having a professional booth set up to take his picture. And again, when we say professional booth, you can get a light booth for literally 20, 30 bucks on Amazon. I don't do that because I set up my snake room with the lighting that it has for a reason. And I just literally pop a snake in my hand, put it over Coco, and take a picture. But the reason I do that is so it's the best representation of that animal's colors. So when you're posting pictures, be mindful of how your pictures look, because in my opinion, it's a very strong correlation from breeders who do well online versus the picture quality or the the setting quality or whatever. And now with Morph Market, you have to be a little bit more mindful on your actual business page, the storefront page. If I'm going to buy an animal from somebody, I'm going to scroll through their storefront. I'm going to read through the terms of sales, and I'm going to go through some of your ratings. And I talked to Darian earlier today. It was very surprising that like probably 90% of all sellers have a perfect 5-star review. I feel like that's probably a little biased, as a lot of buyers are a little wary of leaving negative reviews in fear of retaliation from a breeder or something like that. Because if you look at Underground Reptiles, everyone here is familiar with Underground Reptiles, right?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
They have a 5-star review.
Okay, that's cap. That I'm actually offended of my 5-star now.
Right.
So,
Mike
by the way,
Milbanks has like 700 reviews, and it's all 5 stars.
wow.
Again,
Right.
that's just amazing stats, right? So you're thinking, are people less likely to, are they too scared to put these negative reviews or something like that? Again, like even I have 300 something reviews and it's 5 stars, and I know there's got to be one customer who's like, "Hey man, this snake's
natural. It's normal. Like that's just
right."
like it's like
It
not
should have
having,
been someone that gave you a 4-star, right? But I
Right.
feel like it's almost people's natural instinct or natural inclination right now to just, hey, 5-star, boom, I bought from this guy, so it has to be 5 stars. Again, Justin has 600 reviews, all 5 stars. So I don't know what it is about that, but John or Darian, I talked to him this earlier today, and he says he thinks that buyer or sellers are now going over the top to maintain that high rating because it's such a competitive market.
Yeah.
And basically, I do the same. Okay, if a customer messaged me and says, "Hey, the snake has this," or "Hey, my snake died after 2 weeks." Again, a lot after 2 weeks, usually their fault. I'll most likely just refund them or send him a new snake just to get the beef out of the way.
But okay. So Bob, so like, let's say that you did that to me and we didn't know each other. What star should I give you for that? Even though you did the right thing, and this was kind of like, wow, this was still a good experience. But at the end of the day, like, what do I do about this little mishap that did happen?
So Darian actually messaged some of these guys who bought from Underground and certain guys where he was like, wow, all 5 stars, really? And a lot of people did mention, even in the comments of their reviews, that an animal arrived dead or whatever, but they went back and sent them another animal and replace. So because of that, they gave him a 5-star review. And I'll tell you right now, Amazon has dropped off broken packages at my house, but they send me a brand new one, and I will leave a 5-star review. I don't know what is that about. Again, that, like you mentioned, that mishap did happen. Yeah. Antoine, I've sold Antoine an animal that didn't thrive, and I sent him another animal
right away.
Antoine messaged me like, "Hey man, this animal is sucks," and I said, "Cool, here's another one."
Did you get it?
A better one.
Just kidding.
So, and again, Antoine hasn't ever talked bad about me because of that incident. I think in our natural instinct is that this person tried to fix this problem, so let's just give them the benefit of the doubt, right? And I feel like a lot of times that happens.
Like I sold that so I sold somebody that hurricane head clown. That was a foundation of my hurricane stuff last season. Sold it to somebody, he got it, popped it. It was like, hey man, there's something weird going on with his hemipines or whatever, right? I'm like, what do you mean? I just saw this animal like a couple days ago. Then he sent me some pictures and some videos of it or whatever, and maybe some abscess happened in the last 24 hours or whatever like that. But he paid $3 grand for this animal, so I can't just be like, oh, you full of shit, like, oh, it was like that when I got it, So I gave him an option of some other snakes, and I ended up sending him like an inchy lace clown or something like that. And we made it right away. And he gave me a good rating. He didn't even put in the notes, hey, I got this initial animal from Antoine and it had some issues, but then, you know, I made it right immediately and he gave me a good rating. So, where it is, I think the one time I almost got a negative review, I sold somebody a 9-year-old pied female and it was like, you didn't tell me about the scar she had on her bottom lip that looks like a rat bite. She been eating small rats and medium rats for 11 years, bro. Like, fucking. So, you know, just little stuff like that. You just gotta like know like your target audience and who you're selling to as well, and kind of go back and forth with them. And sometimes you get small people who nitpick about stuff like that, but they'll still leave a 5-star rating.
Yeah, it's just the way you respond to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys feel like in general, like there could be people to speak up more, but they just rather not, just because first and foremost, there aren't confrontation. There's people out there who just don't like confrontation, and then there's also people that don't want to be blackballed, like be blackballed politically wise. You know what I mean? Because a lot of good.
So good. All right, so this is what I do. So you know how you get like live unboxings on Instagram? Yeah. I click on every live unboxing I see because that'll tell you right then and there how a potential person you're trying to do business with, how they package their stuff and what happened in that situation. I made a post a couple weeks ago like that. I was just like, hey man, when you send a snake off, pretend like someone with 4 million followers is going to do a live unboxing of your shit.
I saw that. I like that.
So when you pop that thing open and it's not in the bag at all, it's just loose in the bag, like I got plenty of stuff from, or you got a 500-gram snake in a 6x6x6 box. You know, that's wild too. Or, you know, it was super sub-zero temperatures and they wanted to ship it anyway because they go on vacation next week and didn't want to have the animal in their possession any longer, and they made you take off work to pick this animal up. You know, all those factors, man, when you see a live unboxing, is something you should take notes of, man, because I've seen some people who were happy with their shipments, and I sort of think, I was like, there's no way in hell I'm buying from that guy. This was an $8,000 animal, and he shipped this thing like he was sending a damn coin, you know?
So you guys, you missed the days of like, I mean, Bob, do you remember when that one ball python breeder's name I won't mention sent a bunch of animals out in socks? Oh my God, buddy.
I remember that.
Wow. Rough looking socks. I think
that was Anthony McCain.
Yeah, which also passed away a couple years ago.
Oh,
shit. Rest in peace, Anthony. And they didn't.
Thanks for the sock.
You with your socks.
Yeah, I got you guys. Got you.
Yeah, no. McCain, the founder of the Phantom gene.
The mystic gene, buddy. Don't say shit like that. Ralph will hunt you down, buddy.
He's gonna hunt me tonight.
I mean, overall, I would say that. I don't know, Bob. How many times during some point during the year are you strategically planning for the next year? And what I mean by that, mainly with projects, I feel like the biggest key for a lot of people to be successful is like what Dave said. You got to have what the people want at your table. So are you strategically making sure you're always staying a step ahead every year, or what's your game plan with that?
I think we've kind of figured it out. People want the same thing every year, dude.
Except for leucistics.
The pet people want a white snake, and the higher end pet people want a $500 banana. It's pretty simple, and a solid black snake will sell for 3 times the value of a solid white snake. Everyone knows that. If you produce a black pastel suma, you can sell for $1,500 every day of the week. It just happens. And to put value on animals, right now we're starting to lean more towards. I honestly don't even care how many genes or how genetically powerful this animal is anymore. Does it look pretty, right? Does it pass the grandma's test? If this animal is pretty, I'm going to value it at $1,000. If it's 5 genes and it's butt ugly, I'm sorry, it's a $300 snake because no one's even going to want it as a pet. And if it's already gray at 100 grams, it's going to be worse at 500. So that's where we gear a lot of our breeding at. Is I want to produce pretty animals that maintain a lot of their colors. That's why we produce a lot of banana combos and a lot of desert ghost combos. And when you're working on your pied projects and your clown projects, make sure that you're not adding genes just to add genes. I'm watching these guys add pastel, pinstripe, lesser, hidden gene, woma, yellow belly, fire clown. And I'm like, it's a brown snake. You spent a lot of time to make a super pastel pinstripe at that point. As an adult, it's going to look the exact same, you know. So everything we produce, we're going to be pretty conscious of how the animal is going to look, more than the genetic viability of the project. Of course, we have 10, 20, 30 clutches a year that we're only specifically breeding this to make animals for next year's project. We're making hets, we're making, you know, projects down the road. But everything that we are going to produce, I want to look down the road and go, we want to make pretty animals that people are going to want to buy. When Dave first produced the campfires there at the facility, the campfires, Dave, the
bonfire was the big
bonfire, campfire, and all that. And I was thinking in my head, I need to make that in a banana. And we've been making banana campfires ever since. And those things sell for $1,000 every single time. And it's literally a 3-gene banana combo. It's simple, but someone's going to walk up to your table and say, that's the prettiest snake they've ever seen. It's a banana campfire or banana bonfire.
Yeah, no, two things on that too. Like, you know, you think about 2016, a spinner, super pastel, lesser calico, $2,500.
Yep.
2019, $350. There was a switch. You know, not only are you trying to create ingredients for somebody else to see potential in, and you know, some of these animals just aren't going to hit on it. It's not like the old days where just because there's 4 or 5 genes in there, you're not doing a math equation based on those numbers to figure out how much it's worth. It's how does it look? And even in my opinion, man, like on even some of these clown combos in the industry, certain combos that were made today, if they were made 10 years ago, might not have fetched the same price they're getting now. It's just the market was right for it. Big guys challenged the market by putting prices out that maybe other guys wouldn't even have considered. And, you know, the campfire, it's a good example of that. It's inexpensive genes to make an $800 animal because it's such a beautiful animal.
And it's also well marketed too. Like the name Campfire is kind of dope. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, and that's all Ben Rennick, buddy. Ben Rennick made the first campfire. I'm just trying to make a couple since then.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, Bob. I want to talk about your I'm not your Bob, but the Voodoo project. Okay. Now that's something you've been after for like what, at least 3 years now. I mean, how many years have you kind of been really like exposing that project the way you have been?
So this will be the 3rd year of actual exposure where I'd actually post about it more and actually tell people, call it Voodoo. The first year I made it, I'm just like, hey, check out this weird thing I made. And this is going to be our 3rd year posting more about it. I'm making clowns, desert goes, hypos this year I'm hoping for. And I bred a desert ghost clown to one of them. So we're making more hets for down the road. Again, I'll send a picture later of a Mojave Voodoo. In my opinion, it's a pretty snake. And then for the ones I've made that weren't pretty, I just scrapped it. I'm like never going to go that route again. I made Enchi Voodoos. I'll be honest, very underwhelming. I'm not even going to post about it. And I'm not going to, when people ask me about it, I said, don't do that pairing. It kind of sucks. So there are certain genes that just don't work with other genes well. And I don't even care if you tell me what gene, you spend $10,000 on a gene. Tell me more about your Desert Ghost Sunset. I understand Miguel made one. It's people think it's pretty or ugly, whatever. In my opinion, not a fan. Again, that's probably a $30,000, $40,000 animal. Again, you can look at the animal and say, okay, it's okay. Again, people tell me all the time about how much desert sunset this, sunset that. Again, I have 30 sunsets in my house. Okay, so I'm not talking shit about the project.
Hey, someone give me a hammer and a nail. This is the last fucking dude. I'm telling you, bro. Sunset, good guy. R.I.P. Because listen, why does Sunset Ultramil look like that? It looks like it does not, dude. Is that the same Sunset Ultramil as a baby that was like fluorescent red and you could see everything within it, and now it's not what it was. And I thought where the where the double and triple recessive game was headed, it's supposed to make the snake look even better with age, not the opposite, right? Isn't that the whole game plan with these projects?
Look, I mean, look at the Sunset Clown. It's a $50,000 project, or whatever we're projecting it out to be. You can put it next to a banana, anything, and you're like, wow, this is, the Sunset Clown is not that impressive. Again, down the road when you're stacking Sunset Desert Ghost Clown, or you find, again, I think Justin produced a spot nose Sunset Clown. It's a very pretty animal. I'm curious how it's going to look at 500 grams, but that's where maybe some of these stacking will help that gene, because that's a phenomenal animal out of the egg.
Now,
You know,
but Bob, just how you were saying how Enchi might not be the move of Voodoo. What if there is that other gene that might make Enchi what it could be? Like that's
right. What
that's
if a cinnamon Enchi calico Voodoo is amazing, right?
Hmm.
Because again, we already know cinnamon and Enchi has a very strong interaction, which actually I'm going to go that route because I have cinnamon Voodoos and Enchi Voodoos. So I'm probably going to run that route. The super might be the way to go. Maybe a super Voodoo Enchi or super Voodoo Enchi cinnamon might be that route. It's going to be the exact same for the sunset. Because when I believe Redwood produced a leopard spot nose sunset, and that thing was phenomenal. So certain genes I think will fix sunset. And again, like some of the comments right now, people are not that excited over sunset anymore because some of the genes that have been produced weren't that exciting. But then some of them that I've seen have been like, wow. Right, the leopard spot nose has been amazing.
Yeah.
The yellow belly combos has been amazing. The first lavender sunset, I think, when Brad Boa introduced the lavender sunset, it was very nice. So there are a lot of stuff to do down the road. Oh, it was a stranger sunset clown. That was it. That's what Justin produced, a stranger sunset clown. That was he posted a picture the other day. It looked amazing. Again, every sunset combo is going to be dependent on what does it look like at 500 grams.
Yeah,
you know?
but there is a time and place where you kind of go with your heart, though, and your own tuition. Like because like you said, there could be so many situations where like it could have, should have been this if I would have known. But sometimes you can't just quick to X things out too quickly, though, right, Bob? Is also what it
right?
comes
Because remember Azanthics when they were dog shit, no one cared. They're $100 a piece. Literally nobody wanted Azanthics because when they're 1,000 grams.
Because Xanax always been popping since I've been around. So when was this?
Oh
Dude,
my God!
I got a free adult female Xanthic in 2017. That's a gift.
We're throwing them away. Like, dude, you can go adopt some at freaking Petco. Like, nobody wanted Xanthics. I was picking up Xanthic breeder females for $100, dude. It was nobody wanted Xanthics because at 1,000 grams they're butt ugly. They're brown. It's just a normal at 1,000 grams. But then all of a sudden, Xanthic clowns popped up, Xanthic hypos popped up, Xanthic pieds popped up, and everyone's whoa, lightning pied again, great name, lightning pied, boom, it just blew up. And then Xanthic desert ghost. The Xanthic desert ghost is triple the price of an Xanthic clown right now.
Yep.
I mean, a desert ghost clown. Desert ghost Xanthic is 3 times the price of desert ghost clown right now. Wow. It's just, and again, 5 years ago, they're $100 an animal. Yeah. Again, JD has done a phenomenal job revolving his whole collection around one gene, and he's done it so well.
Yeah, because
JD was at my house the other day talking about that.
That's what happens when you fucking buckle down and you master something. That's what it comes down to. What are you gonna say, Dave? Sorry.
Well, nothing. Just two things like what they're saying. Sometimes you just gotta wait for something to become relevant, even if it's been around. We're kind of making comments about the sunset combos that we like and don't like. Clown started in 1996, 1999, got reproduced in captivity. Yep. You barely saw any combos. Then eventually it was a pastel. My buddy Bill in Buffalo probably made the first ever pinstripe clown ever created. He put it on his table for $400 at Tinley, and a guy was trying to chew him down to $250. Like, it's a weird deal. Sunset, my only argument with that, man, we don't have that color palette. If we could figure out a way to manipulate that color tone that we don't have, and it's a recessive, which is also a good thing, great things can happen, but we might have to make a bunch of shitty super pastel clowns before we know what we're going to do with the project.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point because remember the whole stop hating pastel movement, right? Because there were so many people shitting on pastel, but I mean, pastel looks pretty relevant in DG from what I can see, a DG clown.
It's, you know what the problem is? And I think this is the hardest thing for people right now is everything is, well, if it looks good in clown, I'm going to do a puzzle. If it looks good in clown, I'm going to do a sunset.
Yeah.
The reality is a lot of projects, Inchy used to be king, buddy. Like George Sampson, getting back on the scene, used to say, Inchy's like bacon. Add it to anything, it's going to be better. Like Inchy was relevant. And like you said now, it destroys projects. I would not buy an Inchy paint. That is not the proper gene to put into that project because it didn't make any sense in the first place. Some of this stuff, we just got to look at it a little more. It's not going to just all... Super pastel puzzle is one of my favorite combos in puzzles. lesser puzzles are one of my favorite combos. It makes everything busy. Certain projects, certain things, we just have to go certain directions that don't work with other genes.
What's your take on puzzle, Bob?
I like the puzzle. I think the puzzle came out at a bad time. When it came out, again, you know who came out with the puzzle.
Sorry,
your best friend.
I can't help it. I try to keep. I was like, keep straight face, bro. Don't be an idiot. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot.
And it came out at a bad time. The timing was bad. The marketing was bad. There were certain breeders that avoided the gene like the plague just because who was selling it, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, if the most phenomenal, beautiful gene in the world came out and Tom Pecanic produced it, and I had first dibs on it, I wouldn't buy it because of who was selling it. And that's actually what happened to the gene back then. Was like certain vendors and breeders were avoiding this gene just because of who was producing it. If Puzzle was discovered in Justin Kabilka's facility, every single ball python breeder would have one right now, and it would be the most popular gene in the industry. But because it fell into the wrong, I don't want to say wrong person's lap, a different breeder's lap, it did not go to where it should have. And then as he exited the industry, again, I'm friends with Sean. We've known each other a long time. But as he left the industry, you can see what happened to this puzzle project. It's taken a huge turn. Guys like Will Morose, again, Will's a great breeder, and he's taken that and he just moved it to the next level. You know, so it's just.
But how many years did he quietly just work with Puzzle and just fucking?
Oh my God! No one knew who Will was, and all of a sudden he's this huge breeder with all the puzzles.
Yeah.
So Bob, how do you feel about people who want to push projects but have a list of people who don't want to keep it away from? So if somebody has like a new gene they're saying with, and they say, "Oh, don't let Bob get it," or "Don't let Ozzy get it," or "Don't let Justin get it," because there's a lot of genes like that that came out, and like I've been involved in projects, and they said, "Hey, take this animal, but don't give anything to Justin." You know what I mean? Like that's just like how do you?
I've heard that before
about those projects.
You guys, do you remember when Matt didn't want Brock Wagner to get the GHI, and then he finally got the fucking thing, and he posted them online to just say, "I got it."
Yep. Damn. And again, back in the day, again, I'm very good friends with Brock. I've been doing business with Brock a long time. Back in the day, a lot of breeders kept their projects away from Brock. The reason is Brock is a phenomenal breeder, and he's gonna get that animal to breed, and he's gonna breed it to everything. And he's going to outproduce you. He's going to produce more than you, and you started the project. And that's what's happening to Justin right now is that, or even at my level, you know, I'm not at Justin's level by any means, but even at my level, that happens where I've heard someone having a new gene that they don't want me to get my hands on if they don't like me for any reason, or they don't want Justin to get his hands on. Imagine if you're the first person to have, let's say, Stranger, and you only have one, and you use that male and you produce 5 strangers, but you want to make money first year. You don't want to sell that animal to Justin with the main reason behind that is that Justin, if he sees potential in this animal, will breed it to a Pompeii on his first shot. And then now he has Stranger, red stripe, black pastel, yellow belly, spot nose, het clown. And then you have a pastel Stranger.
Decades.
You know what I'm saying? So that is where some people will avoid selling it to a bigger breeder or a mass producer or anything like that, just to protect that project. So I can see it from that perspective. So it's a very difficult game you're playing.
But from the other hand, though, like everybody's not going to have access to those bigger multi-gene products either. And if you're making the ingredients from it, that still gives you an outlet. Like, for example, like my biggest project is the Enhancer or DGG Stripe Clown project, right? So every time Justin makes a new combo, anytime I have the ingredients for sale to make the base form of that, they all sell.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't have.
You're thinking of the sales aspect. You're thinking of the sales aspect, and basically what I say is I'm going to ride Justin's coattails on those projects, right? He's going to make Pompeiis. Guess what? I'm going to have red stripe, black pastel, yellow belly, head clowns for sale that same year. The year that he made Pompeii, I had so many red stripes for sale. I made so much money. So I'm very appreciative of Justin. But from the recognition and the breeder aspect, is like, I don't want someone to be ahead of me on a project that I started.
Right.
That's what some of these guys are thinking.
It's a fear thing, but I will say too, like outside looking in, even for like the smaller breeder, going back to, let's go the GHI project again. He only sold females for X amount of years. And, I think a lot of people on the outside looking in saw him do everything before they even made their first clutch. And I think that was the deterrent for the project. So I think you need to allow some people in, but you just got to figure out the balance.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest, though. I mean, you got some people that like to say that it was a lot more cutthroat back in the day. Do you think it is still just as cutthroat, but it's more behind the scenes because how much shit could just be exposed because of social media?
So, in my opinion, as far as the social media stuff is, nowadays, when you produce something cool, you're going to show it off tomorrow. Or boom, it's in the egg, I'm going to show it off because you want to be the first to do something. I think 20, 30 years ago, there was a lot of secrets, a lot of stuff being held back. You guys remember the desert when it didn't produce? Yeah. I feel like that information was known for a little bit, but again, there's some stuff you might want to hold back, some of the info, or maybe back when the first bananas only produced males. Yeah. Right? You don't want to tell everybody that right off the rip. Hey, man, by the way, when you buy a banana from me, you're never going to produce a female, or the odds are slim, right? Or when you hear, oh, Mackenzie and Zebra, oh boy. Troy, did someone send you that picture? Never mind. But yeah, so certain things like that you want to kind of hold back then. Nowadays, I think that information is spread. I produced the first super cypresses, and basically the very next week I told everybody, by the way, they wobble. All right, the first 5 super cypresses I produced all wobbled. And I told everybody immediately because I don't want someone else to pursue a project that's faulty. But back in the day, they might hide that type of information so they can sell some cypresses right off the rip.
Wait, is that going to ruin Cypress? Wait, hold on, I got to ask. Is Cypress fucked because of that?
No, they're not.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Definitely not.
No, I have supers. They're fucking perfect. But yes, there are some supers that do have wobble.
I wouldn't say the majority. So I've hatched one that was perfect, and and he was a great breeder, and he did well. I would treat Cypress the same way I would treat Spot Nose. Just don't pursue the super.
Yeah, the super is probably one of the reasons why Spot Nose took so long to be relevant, because with a shitty super, nobody really saw any reason to buy the animals because everyone chased the supers back then.
Right.
I mean, I've heard Super Enchi being like a killer in some things. Do you even feel like that's not even like that? Avoid that.
I think that's a farce. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, really. Super Enchi is a killer in genes in that there's certain projects you don't want it in, like clowns. A Super Enchi clown is virtually patternless. Yeah, it kills the project.
Holy shit, man! This is why I respect you guys, because the level of the thoughts behind this. But God, this is very this is overwhelming, man. This is crazy.
I do feel bad for the new breeders.
You want Enchi because if you want to stack genes and pod stuff, Enchi is one of those genes that's going to give you a lot more saddles and it's going to reduce the amount of white in it. So it's exact opposite. So
exactly.
Yep.
Okay.
Find the tough one, pinstripe and Enchi.
Yep. I'm gonna throw this out there, Troy. Shout to you. But here I've heard so much stuff about Zebra. Right, Zebra has been something that's been on the low talked but up and coming talk for quite a while. Never heard of this Mackenzie shit. I maybe have seen it twice or something like that. But I couldn't imagine spending that much money on a Zebra and then somebody says, well, it's the same as Mackenzie. That would really break my heart. But if that's the case here, what's going on with this? Just a joke.
Troy trying to get people in trouble.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, but there are a lot of recycled genes that come aboard that kind of faded off in obscurity years ago and come back labeled as something else. That is a legit thing. People be like, oh, I got this fucking spider that doesn't have white sides and they got a woma and they want to call it a new name and shit like that too. So it happens a lot. But I don't think it's the same with Mackenzie and Zebra.
Yeah, and we kind of talk about this. And by the way, guys, do me a favor, MJ. I'm getting to that nitty gritty part of the drive. I could lose you. If I'm talking and you can't hear me, just shut my fucking screen off, man. Delete me. Don't let me ramble. Don't let it break up, okay?
Just just take it easy on yourself, please.
I'm sorry, that was a little much. So Mackenzie, and we were discussing. So if we found out tomorrow they were the same, but there's only 20 Mackenzies out there because everybody that project had like a year in the spotlight, then it disappeared. Would it still affect the market if there isn't anything to draw the market down because everything's supply and demand with these things?
That's a great point.
The project itself, the Mackenzie project itself, died out because almost every single Mackenzie that was on the market was attached to Pumas. It all came out of Florida, and it was all attached to Pumas, Sparks, Yellow Bellies, and the project kind of just died out. Again, poor marketing. The name Mackenzie wasn't very catching. The Zebra was a way better name, way better market. Again, I'm not saying they're the same gene by any means, because Zebra was produced by a good friend of mine, Steve Russis, and it was a way better marketed gene. He's done some great combos. Again, you can't even find a hypo Mackenzie anywhere, but you can find hypo Zebras because that project, Steve believed in it and produced hats and produced more combos. And then Adam took over the project, and Adam did a great job with it. And he produced the GHIs, the hypos, the ODs. I'm a little disappointed that there's not a clown and a pied already made, but again, I'm sure he's working on it. And again, even if we found out today that the project is exactly identical, that doesn't take away from everything that people are investing in. People are investing in it because they see potential down the road, potential future for it. So even if say, okay, they're the exact same genes, okay, great. Now you're probably going to get a better price on it. It's the potential is still there. You still think that animal is going to look amazing as a super OD Zebra Desert Ghost. So still pursue it.
Bro, we see rebrands all the time, man, and like in bigger industries than this, and a lot of times it works out for the better.
Yep.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were that heavy into desert, Antoine.
Yep, that's what ruled me the first time around. No, I didn't get the memo.
I bought one for $4,000 in 2000. I think in 2013.
I had a ton of adult females ready to go that season, and then the Wall Street Journal article came out and the video and everything, and man, so I just used that little bit of money, and that's how I opened up my gym. I think with that entire collection of zebras, I got like $6,000 back, and I just started my building with that money.
And now you're back. Look at you.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. Is there anything out there that you feel like is... Dave, I'm taking you out. See you, buddy.
Shut him out.
Y'all was stupid.
That was too on cue, Bob. Shut your mouth.
Shut him up.
Well,
that was so great.
You think Zebra is incomplete dominant and not recessive? I agree there, because if you post all your het zebras, even if you had a clutch of pos het zebras, I can probably look through and pick out every single het in that clutch. Maybe it's just an extreme het form of that gene. Again, just like we say, pastel is the het form of super pastel. It's very similar type situation. It's just a very extreme het. And you can probably pick out every single het in the clutch.
So I want to break this scenario down for you two, and Bob, I really want your insight on this particular, because one of the confusing things that I was mentioning is how, like, we're talking about DG, right? But then enhancer is considered DG,
right?
Okay, so like I don't like that personally, because I like I like DG for what DG is. So when someone's calling enhancer says it's like DG, for me as a sales, like I feel like that's kind of like that's like a wobbler, right? So let's just say like I had DG stuff and I had enhancer stuff, and I felt this type of way, and I wanted just to call my enhancer shit DG. Can't do that, right?
Oh, can I go first? Can I
go ahead. You have more vested in this than me.
All right. So I have enhancer stuff and I have DG stuff. And to me, it's the difference between having all those different lines of pastel. You got citrus pastel, lemon pastel, pastel jungle, gratiani pastel, ruffle pastel, however you say that name too. Genetically, they're all going to be compatible with each other. It's just like polymorphism almost. So my experience with the enhancer compared to Desert Ghost is, if you want overall brighter animals and you're not trying to like build any contrast with it, go the enhancer route. If you want to do different contrasts like in clown and the other stuff, a lot of genetic blackback stuff, Desert Ghost looks better with it too, you know? So that's just my experience with it. But when you put them together, I have Enhancer and Desert Ghost, and so far they've made the best of both worlds. They've had better black contrast, and they're overall brighter animals when they get older. So genetically, apparently they're the same thing as far as RGI goes. It's almost the same thing, but it's just, you know, just different lines, man. Like, they used to like piss me off back in the day. They're like, oh, I got this citrus lemon pastel ripple thing shit too. And to me, it was just like a bunch of weed dealers I knew from around the block, just trying to add a little sauce on to their product. You know what I mean? So it doesn't bother me, like I said, because even though if it's genetically the same thing, they have different purposes. So and when the final thing comes out and it says it's 100% genetically the same thing, I still don't care what you call it. You can call it something fucking different. I don't care.
In my opinion, I have amazing looking Desert Ghosts, females, the blocks down the back, beautiful contrast, all that. And then I have some butt ugly, in comparison, not as quality Desert Ghost animals. Again, polymorphism is just the same exact genes expressed differently in certain animals. And I believe that's what happened with Enhancers and Desert Ghosts. Remember, these animals got split off. One went here, and then one went to Europe, and it was marketed as different genes, produced as different genes. Is the exact same situation that happened with Butter Lesser, Banana Core Glow, but this just so happens to have happened into a recessive gene, right? So this happened in a recessive gene, which is a sentinel and paint. Again, so you can treat that as almost a recessive, right? Sentinel and paint. And so because it got split off into different areas, whoever's working that gene, again, if you work Enhancer and then you work Desert Ghost, you're going to say, well, this is better. Because I heard back then when I first got started, you don't buy lessers, you buy butters because those are better. And the guys who have lessers were like, no, lessers are cleaner. You want to get lessers. And then they swear up and down that if they had 50 lessers and 50 butters, they can pick them out because the better looking ones are lessers. I can guarantee you right now, if I took 100 Desert Ghosts of different variety and 100 Enhancers of different varieties, shook them up in a box, there's no way for you to pick them out because there's certain qualities of each type of gene, and you're not going to be able to pick them out. Again, genetic testing has already confirmed they are exact same gene. So in my opinion, it's just different variety. Again, you can work with the best of the best. Maybe you only bought the best of the best Desert Ghosts or best of the best Enhancers, and now you're going to line breed those to continue to produce the best of the best. So what we've done in our collection is for genes like that, to avoid any type of confusion at all, is any gene that is the most dominant name, that's what we're going to use. So all of our acids became confusions. We don't know, even though if I bought it in as acid, we know genetically is the exact identical gene to confusion. And because the bulk of my collection was confusion, I changed all of my names to confusions. I know this pissed off a good friend breeder of mine that we changed all of our names to confusions. He thought I was like scamming people because I was selling acids as confusions. Genetically is the exact same gene, different naming. But for me to have acid het hypos and then confusion het hypos on this rack and then static het hypos in this other rack didn't make sense. That's like having bananas and then core glows in the same rack. Just change it all to something to make it more uniform. In my opinion, for our collection, made more sense. Again, if you
what's funny about that is I agree with most of that, except for there's only like one set of genes I'm a hypocrite about that with, and that's Hurricane, Trick, and Blitz.
Hurricane, Trick, and Blitz. Hey, I still have my Hurricane, Trick, and Blitz separated in my collection.
Because my Hurricanes are superior than all you fuckers dog shit Blitz and Tricks out there, and fuck.
Mainly because I paid more for my Hurricane.
Fucking.
I mean, aren't DGs going more for Enhancers, or am I tripping?
Was it about the same?
About the same. They were higher at first. Enhancers, true. They were a little bit higher, but it's like balanced out now.
Yeah. I mean, I've never asked you this ever, Bob. I mean, the whole, I don't know if it's really dispute now, but the Ultra Male and Monarch, I mean, what was your debate as far as what's more fire?
I have both in my collection, and I can tell you as adults they look different. I have a lot of Ultra Males and have very few Monarchs, and I believe RGI has pinned them as different genes, as different alleles. and they're non-allelic. They do not produce you can't breed the two to produce like a midway animal. They're non-allelic, and I believe RGI has already determined that they are on different alleles.
Both tests to be out soon.
Should be out soon. Yep.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Antoine. How much of that genetic shed testing have you been using, Bob?
I have tested about 50 animals.
Wow. Probably about that same amount too. So I just sent in some sperm casings now from some males. I'm experimenting with that now because apparently they can extract the DNA from that, which they should, because it's essentially fucking 100% DNA. So I have some stuff that I know what the genetics are in it because I produced it myself just to see how the tests come out. And I have some stuff I'm testing for like some recessive stuff with a bunch of breeder males. So hopefully in the next week or so, I can report back on that and I'll make some content about it on YouTube and Patreon.
Okay. I mean, what would you say, Bob, to anyone out there who's kind of struggling with their projects? I mean, first and foremost, let me ask you this. I brain farted there. I want to go back because if you go get a 50% het hypo tested and it comes back that it is hypo, how do you advertise that? Are you still calling it a 50% het with proof, or you just call it straight 100% het and then you show them the proof with the because they always ask for the pairing. You look
right. So you can do this on Morph Market. You can create an animal's profile. Basically, so what I would do basically the other day, what I produce is Desert Ghost Stranger 50% het clown. So I'm going to make that profile, Desert Ghost Stranger 50% het clown male, and then I'm going to click genetic test, and I'm going to send that test in. It's going to give that animal a test ID. Once that ID comes back, it's going to show a positive or negative. If it's positive, I can go ahead and upload that animal and post it for sale. And that's going to guarantee that animal's genetics because it's been tested and it has the ID on there already.
Okay. So you can put 100% then?
Yes. According to RGI, the tests are 99.9% accurate. The 1% that you're falling through the cracks is user error and data logging error. Basically, you sent in the wrong one. You didn't write down the right code. You messed up. User messed up, but the genetic testing is correct.
So I guarantee there's going to be people who's going to be funny about that 0.1, and they're not going to want to. Yeah. Huh.
Well, in that situation, in the description, even if you don't use the same ID to change it over, I'll put in the description, it was proved genetic, blah, 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 through RGI testing. So that way that little blurb is there too. So that's also something to fall back on in the event that there was some kind of error somewhere. And I think what I'm going to do in the future is actually put something in my Morph Market in my description saying that, hey, there is some kind of marginal error that can occur with these genetic tests. So just keep that in mind. And eventually there will be a problem when somebody sells like a possible head that proved out head for the test or something like that, and that someone breeds this animal and never produces what it's tested for. Somewhere down the line is going to happen. And I think we need to figure out what we're going to do when that happens too. So if you have like a spot-nosed monarch 100% het clown and you breed that thing and you never make a clown with it ever, that's thousands of dollars of a difference in the animal. So what do you do in that situation, Bob? When you sell that animal, you sold like a $10,000 snake that way. And now let's say 5 years from now, that male got bred to 5 different females, to visual clowns, and never made a clown. How do you make that right?
If that animal wasn't genetic tested and I sold that animal and it wasn't genetic tested and I did it myself, I would assume the responsibility and I would say, well, 5 years ago, I could have fucked up because I've done that before. I've done it one time ever where I sold a guy a pastel leopard yellow belly female het clown and she didn't prove out. And I know exactly what happened. I produced multiple clutches at the time. I might, again, 3 years later is when he contacted me. I might have shipped them the wrong animal. So what I did was I calculated his 2 clutches, what he would have produced. I refunded him half on cash value and gave him the other half in trade value. So it was about $6,000 that I owed him for that animal that he paid $800 for. So I gave him $3,000 in refund and then $3,000 worth of animals in trade. I feel that was pretty fair for 3 years or technically 2 clutches worth of lost value. But in that situation, I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you would pursue with RGI, because it could have been user error. It could have been anything. I don't know. It's that's a tough question. Yeah.
And then also too, with this being said, you know, let's just say you have something that is 100%, like you don't need to test for it, right? Like it's 100%. Are you going to price that test that's positive at 99.9% at the same price as 100%?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Now, I also feel like it's kind of like, you know, you vote with your dollar too. Like, you know, you know, like Antoine said, it's going to come down to you just feeling more comfortable buying something off someone you just feel better off buying with. I don't know. I mean,
well, you're buying an animal from some guy online. My brother is baffled by the het world of our industry. You're just basically basing your next 3 years based on this guy's word. Yeah. Hey, by the way, this is het. And then you're basing your future of your next 3 years feeding or whatever and breeding this animal to your best animals over this guy's word. So that's basically all our industry is trusting the breeder. So that's why when a lot of new investors are buying in, they're buying from guys that are more reputable. It sucks for the new breeders. I understand it, but they're going to go to guys who can back up their product if it does improve out. I believe, God, this was a buddy of mine that bought something from Justin that didn't prove out. Justin refunded him and then gave him another animal on top. You know, so again, when you're buying from certain guys, you expect a warranty. You expect them to be able to back up their word. That's why sometimes they choose to go with a bigger breeder to make sure that that's guaranteed.
And truth be told, Bob, there's just some situations you can't avoid, and you might get fucked. I think that's kind of part of growing up in this game. I mean, do you have anything that stands out in your head where, you know, something maybe kind of held you back based off of the decision you made based off someone's trust or anything like that?
Hell yeah. I bought a $4,000 desert male, and then next week they were $400.
Yep.
That's fucking brutal, dude.
And I was broke at the time. I was new, man. I was grinding at the time in the insurance world to save money for this stuff. And I bought a desert male, and I ended up breeding him a few times. And we made a bunch of pretty pets, and we sold them for $300-$400 a piece, and we grinded to get to break even selling $300 pets. Man, it sucked, but it happens in the industry, and it's going to happen to everybody. You could buy from the best well-known breeder in the world, and they might sell you an animal that's covered in mites or respiratory infection or whatever. It just happens, dude. I bought $10,000 animals before that came ridden covered in mites. And it happens, you know, it's going to happen to you, just how you respond to it. Again, mites happen. I understand it too. No matter what size your collection, how long you've going to been doing this, you will eventually at some point in your career get mites. And it's just how you respond to it.
FBI Facebook page. You've heard of that page, right?
Yes, I've heard of that page.
Now in your shoes, Bob, that snake you pay $4K for shows up with mites. You try to work with the seller, and the seller just doesn't want to work with you. What are you to do at that point?
For me personally, because of my business name and where we are, I probably will tell it to my closest 200 friends and then leave it alone. You know, honestly, I wouldn't blast the breeder. It's mites. It's again, if he shipped me a snake and I fish it out of the bag frozen, and you know it's barely breathing, it's 38 grams. Yes, I'm gonna post about it. If I got a snake in with mites, honestly, I'll be honest right now. Mites in our facility, if it spread, it's a big deal. If I got the animal in and I open the box and I see some mites, it's not that big of a deal because we know how to deal with it. I know exactly how to treat mites. I know where to put this animal, but it's not gonna go in my main collection anyways. It's going to go sit in another rack. It's going to get sprayed down. It's going to get quarantined for 2 months because it came in with mites. And again, it has happened before. And it's happened to a good friend of mine that shipped me the snake. And he was so embarrassed. He was more embarrassed about it that when I told him about it, then I was even angry. I wasn't even angry. I was just telling him to let him know, by the way, you have a mite outbreak. And he was so embarrassed.
It's also how the seller handles it too, you know? So to me, that'll determine how I talk about the interaction too. So if I say, hey man, I got this snake and they have bubbles come out of his nose, and you tell me I'm a fucking liar. I'm like, look, this is the animal. It's crackling. It sounds like the fucking girl off fucking The Grudge, and you telling me this animal isn't sick. You know what I mean? Then we got a problems. But if you work with me and try your best to rectify the situation, and we come to an agreement, there's no reason to put you on blast. I don't believe.
Yeah, I mean, but for the newer keeper though, that's the thing I'm more concerned about. Like, people need to be more cautious with, or people who aren't like they don't know better. You know what I mean? And you know, one thing that recently became a light into the whole industry was like the way some pet keepers could buy an expensive ball python, and then you know that happened to a pet keeper. They're not even in it for breeding. Now you got a whole different person kind of pissed off. You know what I mean? I mean, that being said, do you sell a lot to the pet keeping side of the industry, Bob, that you know of?
I do. I sell, oh God, at a regular show, I'll probably say about 50-50. About half the sales go to pets.
How's your approach with that type of customer versus like a breeder?
With a pet keeper, you do have to do a little more hand holding. I feel like that the first pet you sell somebody is probably the most important interaction. It's more important than selling an invested animal, because I've noticed every time I sell 2,000-3,000, I've sold Antoine multiple animals. I rarely get a message the following 2 weeks about why it didn't eat, right? Because he knows what he's doing. He's going to get an animal. He's going to throw it in a rack. He's going to eat. Right. With that pet keeper, you might get that second message. You have a follow-up message. Then they'll ask you, hey, how come its eyes are all brown or gray, and how, you know, why is it biting at me, stuff like that. Your interaction as a seller or breeder is going to determine if this person's actually going to stay in reptiles long term. That first animal they buy is going to determine if this kid or new hobbyist is actually going to continue doing this, or even continue liking reptiles. You sell them a crappy animal that's blowing bubbles. You sell them a crappy animal that's not feeding. You sell them a pre-fed, pre-shed animal, and you do all the irresponsible things. This person is going to think every single reptile breeder is sleazy. All their friends are now going to think all the reptile breeders are sleazy. Or if it's a kid, he's when he buys the snakes, he's excited. He's going to tell all his friends about it. And then when his snake dies, he's going to tell all his friends his snake died. And no one in that circle is going to want a snake after that. So I feel like that pet interaction is more important than selling a snake to someone that actually knows what they're doing. Because once someone knows what they're doing, dude, once you ship that snake, you're never going to have to hear from them again, because they know what they're doing. The next time they message you is when that snake's on eggs. All right. But for that pet interaction is very important if we want to grow this industry the right way. So.
And I would think, not to kind of like categorize this, but I would feel like a lot of pet keepers we have in the industry are pretty young. And that's a good thing, because they might be a pet keeper forever. If you give them a good enough experience, they can maybe be like, hey, what's it like breeding? And then there you go. You might have to mentor them for the rest of the way, but who cares? They're paying you. So let's go. That's
right. I mean, that's how we all started, was as a pet keeper. We all start with a pet, you know.
Yeah. And you got to treat it just like kind of the way McDonald's treats their customers, like with the way they train you anyway. To like when you sell somebody their first hamburger or their first cheeseburger, you know what I mean? Like if the first time you go to any restaurant, period, and you open it up and it looked like dog shit, are you gonna go back?
No,
probably not. You know, if you open a sandwich and there was green mold on the bread and it was no cheese on it and a fly was on that thing, you'd be like, all right, I'm cool, you know. But if you had the first experience with something, it's gonna map how you treat it from that point. You know, so if you get a crappy animal your first time around, that's going to be embedded in your head. But when you sell somebody even a nice pet quality animal, eventually they'll move up because they'll be comfortable with taking care of this animal. Because the same, you know, a normal male and a stranger Pompeii, it's the same damn husbandry for the animal to thrive. You know what I mean? So now eventually they'll be comfortable to get to that point where they'll put more money into their projects, and helping them along the way with those simple pet quality animals is always that catalyst for that. And a lot of people need to realize that.
All right. You brought up McDonald's. So I'm going to bring up this story here because I don't know if it's a Cali thing, but I love In-N-Out. You've had In-N-Out burger before, Bob. I'm sure.
Yep.
You've had it. All right. And I don't need to ask you. You've had In-N-Out burger, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that shit religiously. But you know what happened? The last time I went to In-N-Out, I found a hair in my fucking burger. Well, actually, I didn't. My wife did. Changed everything. Everything is now different. I can no longer go to In-N-Out. I mean, I think I could, but my wife saw it. She's the one that visually saw it. You know what it was, how curly it was, all the above. And she's PTSD, mentally scarred. We can never go back. I feel like some people should try to look at how they treat their customers as if like you don't want their customer to find a hair in your food, because motherfucker, I have a phobia of that shit. I don't, some people, Antoine, I feel like you're OG enough where you wouldn't give a fuck, you'd keep eating for sure. Because Antoine's just rugged like that, I feel like. Am I wrong or right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Hey man, I eat ass on the first night, so I mean, whatever. but yeah. I digress.
So, anyways, that's why it's like, you know, I appreciate, like, you want to talk about you want to talk about impressions, though, man. Will Morris has one of the best presentations when you buy an animal from him, you know, and I feel like just how Bob, you were talking about your presentation at a show. I think everyone should try to take put a lot more energy in behind that and kind of have some like standards. I feel like that could take them a long ways. But listen, I got a wrap up question. All right, we're well over 2 hours. I'm sorry, and I appreciate you guys. I know Bob has
Bob, bro.
Bob's just thinking about Diablo right now. I guarantee he's gonna hop on the sticks or do something, right? Are you?
Will is actually the head admin for one of our discords for Diablo 4, so he's pretty mad that I'm not on there right now.
Well, relax, Will. This was important, okay, buddy. But listen, at the end of the day, this was all about sales, wrapped around sales. What would be your advice? And we'll go to you here, Antoine, first. What would be your advice for anybody out there who's invested in a project? Let's just say Blackhead Clown, for an example, right? I got some Blackhead Clown. I'm at Tinley. I'm thinking, hey, I'm going to price them at X amount. And then next thing you know, the person right across from you prices it probably half the price, right? And that might obviously do something to that person. You know, what do I do? What do I do with my prices? Stuff like that. How does somebody know when to fuck with the price and when not to fuck with the price, no matter what the influence is around them?
Well, we're looking at that right now. Like a lot of the stuff that a lot of my residuals from the Enhancer G-Stripe Clown project, I put a lot of female clowns up for sale. That's Clown, Het Desert Ghost, Posset, G-Stripe. I've seen right now they're ranging from $1,200 to almost $3,500 for the same animal for the same thing. And a lot of people are sitting there trying to figure out why the animal isn't selling. And there was a couple I put on the low end and they sold right away. People kind of just sitting on it and have my thing saved. I dropped the price, boom, they were gone. So you just have to adjust with the prices. I mean, yeah, don't kill the project. Some of those people will jump in and completely reduce their stuff because they need money for something, or you know, they have some other bad investments, but just got to kind of play with the prices on some of these projects to see where it falls at and compare it to what other people are doing. So if you see that stuff sold for X amount of price, it's okay to contact the person and be like, hey, I see you have this price for sale or whatever, but you cool with like saying exactly what you sold it as. And some people tell you the truth. Of like, I sold it for list price. And something like, nah, bro, I sold that shit for $800, but I just kept the number up there. So you just have to do your due diligence with these projects and see what you're comfortable at moving to that. But you also have to think in the future, where could you price it so low that you don't kill the project? Because at a certain point, it'll be worthless, you know? Yeah. So look at, Justin was getting a lot of crap a couple of years ago when he dropped the price on Hurricane Clowns. And that's when they were $6,000. You know what I'm saying? This is like, you talk about $6,000 and there were complaints about that price being dropped. So you're like, man, like, fuck, how do I adjust with that? Where if I'm making the same thing, now how I have to compete with Justin where I have mine for $8,500, $9,000, and now his are $3,000 cheaper. Yeah, you know, so it's just always like each situation dictates, and it's complicated, bro. I don't know if I answered the question or not, but it's just a real delicate situation with the way prices go.
I mean, I'll give you a Molokai on that one if you want. You can go back and do another one if you want to redo it. But I thought it was good. I think we're good. What does Bob have to say? What's your thoughts on that, Bob?
Man, we don't want to sit on animals. Again, at the end of the day, we have to feed animals. We got to pay to feed animals. And so people have to consider this as a big factor, right? If you did amazing during COVID, you're going to do okay post-COVID. If you did okay during COVID, you're going to struggle a little bit post-COVID. And you have to be able to adjust, okay? The adjustment happens in pricing mostly, and your projects, and maybe not producing certain genes that don't sell well. During COVID, everything sold. It didn't matter what you hatched. It sold.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, we have to be smarter with the projects. We have to think about it. If someone's paying you $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 for a snake, okay, and if it happened to slip down to $7,500 from $10,000, it's
a win.
okay.
You're gonna
It's
live.
still okay, you know. And it's like
That's what I'm saying, man. You're gonna be fine.
I had a guy get very angry at me at a show because I had a snake for $4,000. He had it for $6,000, and he says the market is demanding it to be a $6,000. And I said, how long have you had the snake? Clearly, it's 400 grams. And he goes, well, he goes, well, I'm holding firm because I have, you know, whatever pride in my animals. I said, cool. At the end of the show, my animal sold for $3,500. His animal is still there. I see him again next quarter at the next show. He still has his animal. Now it's 500 grams. And now the only thing he can tell me is, well, I'll just keep it then if no one's going to buy it. You don't want to keep that animal. That's why you had it on the table for sale. The market is whatever someone is willing to pay you for said animal or these genes. And he was like, well, I paid $10,000 for this gene last year. I was like, yeah, dude, you produced 9 of them. It's okay to sell them this year at $3,500. You produce 9, you'll be fine. And next year you produce another 9. And the goal is not to reproduce the same exact animal every year anyways. You're supposed to be upgrading every year and produce better stuff.
We should be
so what if you pay $10,000 for a gene and it drops down to 8,000 next year or 7,000 next year? You're supposed to produce better and more. So the goal, when you're investing, as long as you're able to get eggs out of any animal, you're going to be in the win. You're going to be in the positive. You're not going to lose money just because you slightly overpaid for an animal. Remember, you're still $1,500 into a female before she lays eggs. So overpaying by a few $100 or even $1,000, you're going to make money as long as that animal lays eggs. As long as your husbandry is right, you're going to make eggs and you're going to produce a better combo. You're going to produce holdbacks. You're going to add another gene. You're going to add another recessive gene. Now that animal's worth 3, 4, 5 times more. You're going to make money. You're going to make money. Just be able to adjust price wise and be able to, but you don't have to be the cheapest guy. Like I mentioned earlier, your goal is not to be the cheapest guy, because if that's the only thing that you have, that's an advantage, you're already losing. Okay. All the intangibles that Antoine talked about, your likability, your ability to connect with people, your ability to close a sale, your ability to show people the future of a project. And then obviously you have to be fairly competitively priced, the way you take pictures, stuff like that. Someone's mentioning right now, stranger het clowns are sitting on Morph market at $1,500 to $2,500. I don't think Josh Jackie's really shaking in his boots right now, even though he paid $10,000 for his male 3 years ago. You know, he's produced probably 40 of these animals. He's made his money back on the first 6 months of that, having that animal. I don't think he's shaking in his boots. Okay. And he's again, he's not out to make stranger het clowns. He's made stranger clowns and stranger clown combos already 10 times over. So when you're making these projects, you're making these $2,500 investments, as long as you're going to get eggs, you'll make money. Don't worry about it too much and just be able to adjust. Again, I'm not saying go out there and slash prices in half, but be able to adjust to the market and make sure you don't get stuck on a bunch of animals and become desperate or not be able to afford to feed these animals. I'm seeing that happen in some collections as people offer me animals. And I'm like, how long have you, when's the last time you fed this animal? Because some of these guys are getting desperate. And they're feeding them every other week or every 3 weeks. So get those animals moved.
And I feel like the ones that are really desperate are the ones who have the less years of experience. And I would say people around my era, like the ones who came in 2016, 2017, and started
COVID year
2019, like COVID. Yeah, well, I'm a COVID era breeder.
Yep.
COVID breeders, man. And listen, I hit it out of the park like everyone else did. But I also knew, like, I gotta tell you, Bob, like I was like, dude, this much money off snakes, like I'm okay if this shit got cut in half. Like I always told myself, like
exactly.
I'm gonna be fine. Like I can make half this and I'm not bitching, you know what I mean? But then also too, how do you expect something to keep its price year after year? That ain't gonna happen. I don't give a fuck how bomb the project is.
Okay, so let me explain it to you like this, right? So in 2020, they come out with a brand new Corvette. It's $100,000. In 2021, it's the same Corvette. It's $100,000. COVID. 2022 is the same exact Corvette. You can't expect another $100,000 on the same thing, because in 2025 they're going to come out with a different model Corvette, and that 2020 vehicle is no longer hot. It's no longer the new thing. So we're not expected to push the same exact thing out every single year and expect the same money.
Yeah.
It's a 5-year-old project. It's a 5-year-old vehicle. So in 2025, you're expected to make something new with that project. You bought a Stranger Het Clown in 2000. I get it. It's 2023. Make something
In
new.
2000.
You want some 2020 shit, man? Let's go. Hey,
And another thing too, some of you guys with these, hey, can you guys hear me? You
Yeah,
still hear
yeah,
me good?
Yeah, we good.
So a lot of you guys with these breeder males, you've been sitting on like, hey, if you got some of these snakes for 3, 4, and 5 years, man, you're doing something wrong. You know, like if you haven't done enough to improve off this animal yet and haven't upgraded from it, like either you're selling everything you're making and not holding back the right stuff, or you're screwing up along the ways, man. So like these genes, I mean, I hate to say this like about living things, but there's obsolescence in this hobby and in this industry too. So you got to upgrade.
Lucy, 350. Let's go.
Dude, I sell Super hobbies for $550, $600.
Damn, boy.
Okay, I mean,
sell about 20 of those.
it's funny. We all here know Bill Stiegel, right? The mayor of Conjure Town, good old Bill.
Yeah.
Bill. He fucking will sell bells every single year because all he does is just they eat and they're gone just like that at $350 a pop, and they're getting picked up at his house. Like that's fucking. Oh, you know, Marshall Mendez even told me too. He's like, I will never be mad at selling a snake for $300. You know, like even though he doesn't, I'm just saying like 300 is $300. You know what I mean?
I did $30,000 in Houston, and our average sale was $400.
That's crazy. Numbers.
Dude, the first show I did, I thought it was a different woman coming to my booth in a disguise because it was the same script. Do you have any pies or bananas or blue-eyed Lucy's? 10 minutes later, do you have any pies or bananas or blue-eyed Lucy's? I'm like, what the fuck is this shit?
It's the same one. We know what the customers want. It's a white snake, it's a banana, it's a pie. You know, it's always the same thing at every single show. Do you have any white snakes with blue eyes? No. And do you have any white snakes with black eyes? It's the same stuff. Every show.
Yep. Damn, man. This was one fire ass podcast. I appreciate you two so much. Antoine, we had well over 125 people tapped in at one point. What do you have to say to all your supporters, all the day ones, everyone tapped in tonight?
Hey, man, appreciate you all, man. Hey, keep doing the damn thing. And real quick, RIP to all my COVID babies who got out before they produced the snake. That's kind of sad, but yeah, I mean,
all the COVID breeders.
I'm joking, but I'm not though. There's a lot of people who came in who like, you know, they had some adversity, and the first thing they did was get rid of their animals because they didn't do it for the love of the game. They did it for the profit margins and stuff too. And I'm telling you, man, if you're in this to make money, there's a lot better ways to make money than selling these damn armless fucking things that we've been slinging and shit, man. So there's way better. I'm telling you, like, you can fucking do day trading and make a killing if all you is for the money. But if you don't enjoy scraping fucking shit and looking at that incubator every time you walk in the snake room, bro, do something else.
I'm just saying there's a better world for the lazy people out there other than the snake game. You know what I mean? Leave that shit to the hustlers and fucking people.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot more work than people give us credit for.
Yeah, Bob, real quick, over 125 people. I bet a lot of them here to see you. I'm not going to lie. But what do you have to say to all your love and support, man? Everyone who loved this episode.
Hey, I appreciate it, everybody. I see a lot of my Patreon members in here. I appreciate you guys showing out. I'll see you guys on Diablo in a few minutes. Let me go freshen up, and I'll log on.
Episode 345. Give it up right now for Antoine Hood and Bob Vu, ladies and gentlemen.
Appreciate it. Thank you, MJ.
Hey, have a good night, guys. I appreciate you too. Thank you so much, man.
Right,
later, guys.
Later, bro. Legendary. Jesus Christ, that was so hard. This podcast, this episode is gonna get a lot of views. I can already tell you right now. All wrapped around selling. How important is it what we do, us breeders, us relevant people doing what we do to sell and keep our shit moving and alive? That's why I felt like this demographic, like this vibe, you know. And then I gotta tell you right now, I feel like what helped Bob Vu just kill it, even though Bob Vu always kills it. What really helped Bob Vu tonight was Dave Levison. I think Dave kind of opened up Bob's mind, some doors that not a lot of people could do. You know, Dave and Bob go back quite a bit. So I think that was great. Big time. Makes me think that I should bring Bob and Dave back on more. And even Antoine, of course, you know, you can't not thank Antoine enough for having his taste and having his vibe to the show. It was just all good things, guys. So definitely before I end tonight's live, we should have over 100 likes. What would you say, guys? Can we get the likes up? If you're tapped in, if you're one of the 120 plus people tapped in tonight and you just have not hit the like button yet, It's not too late. Why don't you get the likes up for those two, for Dave Levinson, for the channel? Okay. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to stay on top of all reptile related topics, news, updates, you name it. If you love keeping reptiles, admiring them, breeding them, whatever, man, this is the fucking channel to be a part of. Coolest reptile podcast in the world. That's a fact. Sunday, Holy Gecko Sessions with my boy Tyler Ruggie. Tyler's really, really big on the social media side of things, and he's also killing it on many other species of lizards and whatnot that I enjoy. We're gonna talk about his gecko game. We're gonna talk about his Abronia game, and he also taps in with some snakes as well. But you guys know Sundays is all about the lizards, man. It's all about the lizards, and that's gonna go down this Sunday, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So make sure after you subscribe and hit that notification bell, you go set your reminder for this episode 346. It's gonna be awesome. And again, make sure you go give me a follow on Instagram, Trap Talk God 619. Follow the Instagrams, the podcast's Instagram page as well, Trap Talk Reptile Podcast. If you're looking for exclusive content, you want to tap in with people like Antoine and the trappers. If you really want to, like, let's just say you're into this industry and you just really haven't tapped in with people yet. Well, listen, this will save everything. Go down to the very first link in the description below and join the Trap Talk Patreon family. Patrons take you very far in this game, especially the Trap Talk Patreon family. Shout out to all my trappers, my Patreon members. I love you guys, man. But as soon as you join the Trap Talk Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, which will tap you in with over 165 trappers, all about reptile topics, life topics, you name it, man. We just grow closer together as a family, and we really just grow about these animals, man. We really love about what we do. So Patreon members, I love you guys. Also, don't forget, tonight's episode was brought to you by Miguel Garcia at Always Evolving Pythons. So player, so evolving. Shout out to the AEP family. Appreciate you guys so much for your love and support. Also, go give a follow to TOFAUTI, Royals of Africa, the Mandarin King. Ain't nobody seen this guy's Mandarin game, I can tell you that much. Appreciate you, TJ, for your love and support. Last but not least, the OG, triple OG himself, who got mad props tonight from someone like Bob Vu and Antoine. Love it. Mark Bailey from Mark Bailey Reptiles, my good friend. Cannot wait to hang out with you, Mark, pretty soon. It was just his birthday, too. So if you talk to Mark, make sure you give him a happy belated birthday. And Mark, thank you so much. All the other sponsors, I love you guys. Appreciate you. My viewers, honestly, man, if you're a recurring viewer and you don't even hit that subscribe button, I don't care, man. If you're just watching and listening to my guests and this is helping you, that was my goal. That's it. All right. All right, guys, listen, I'm out, man. I'm pretty tapped. I had a really crazy day today, but then also the raffle was awesome. I just feel a little drained, but I'm good, man. You guys have a good rest of your nights. Be safe. Love each other. Love yourself, more importantly. But that's a wrap for episode 345. Coolest reptile podcast in the world, and that's a fact. See you soon.